Welcome everyone. My name is Councillor Helena Kirby and I'm the Mayor of the Golden Plains Shire Council. As Chair of the meeting, I give my consent for this open council meeting to be streamed live but not recorded, in accordance with Section 14 of Council's Governance Rules of 2020. Myself as the Chair and or the CEO have the discretion and authority to at any time direct the termination or interruption of the live streaming. Such direction will only be given in exceptional circumstances where deemed relevant. Circumstances may include instances where the content of debate is considered misleading, defamatory or potentially inappropriate to be published. The stream will stop at the conclusion of the meeting. Those councillors, staff and members of the public in attendance in person tonight are advised to practice social distancing and the hygiene recommendations of the Department of Health and Human Services. Thank you. I will now recite the opening declaration on behalf of all councillors. We, the councillors of the Golden Plains Shire, declare that we will undertake on every occasion to carry out our duties in the best interests of the community, and that our conduct shall maintain the standards of the Code of Good Governance, so that we may faithfully represent and uphold the trust placed in this council by the people of the Golden Plains Shire. Golden Plains Shire spans the traditional lands of the Wadawurrung and Eastern Maar people. We acknowledge them as the traditional owners and custodians. Council pays its respects to the Wadawurrung elders past, present and emerging. Council also respects Eastern Maar elders past, present and emerging. Council also extends that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are part of the Golden Plains Shire. Do we have any apologies or leave of absence, councillors? No, thank you. Confirmation of the minutes. Councillors, we have a resolution before us to confirm the minutes of the ordinary meeting of council held on the 25th of May 2021 and the 8th of June 2021 as circulated. Can I have a mover? Councillor Whitfield. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Cunningham. All those in favour? Carried. Declaration of conflicts of interest. Are there any declarations or conflicts of interest?
Madam Mayor, thank you. A general conflict of interest, I believe, in regards to agenda items 7.12, which is awarding the tender of the Golden Plains Shire Youth Hub. I believe I may have a general conflict of interest as I'm chairman of the Bannockburn District Grants Board, which is part of the project. Thank you.
Councillor Cunningham.
Yes, Madam Mayor, item 7.4, page 28. I believe I have a conflict of interest. I'm a joining landholder to grant allotment 37E, Piggereet Road, Piggereet, Victoria.
Thank you, Councillor Getson. For public question time, we have no public questions submitted. We now move on to consider the formal agenda. There has been a registration, is that right, Philippa? Thank you. To make a public submission tonight after the introduction of the report, I will call forward the submitter. For those presenting, I would like to remind you of the speaking times allocated. Each presenter may speak for a maximum of 5 minutes, and I ask you to respect the time limit, please. To assist presenters with this, a timer will be displayed in front of me. 1 bell will sound when you are nearing the maximum time allowed, and 2 bells will sound when your time has expired. 2 minutes will then be allocated for councillor to ask questions of the presenter. I note that this is not a time for debate. Business reports for decision. Item 7.1, the meeting record. Mr. Bresless.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The meeting record for the last month, noting that as required under the Act, we need to table this when there is a declared conflict of interest, and there was at the last briefing.
Thank you, Mr. Bresless. Do I have a mover? Whitfield? Do I have a seconder? Councillor Cunningham. Do you wish to speak, Councillor Whitfield?
Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Seconder, thank you. Are there any councillors who'd like to speak for, thank you, or against? Councillor Gamble?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to just briefly note that on page 4 of the meeting record, in response to Jared Blackman, Director Josipovic made a common and understandable error in referring to the Parks Victoria controlled land north of the Common Road as the Inverleigh Flora and Fauna Reserve. The correct name is the Inverleigh Nature Conservation Reserve. It's been like that for about 10 years. I think it's important it's given its proper name because it recognises its status and unique ecological value. Thank you.
Do we have a comment regarding that? You're comfortable? Okay. Thank you. Thank you for picking that up, Councillor Gamble. Is there any councillor who'd like to speak against the motion, for the motion? Would you like to sum up it all, Councillor Whitfield? All right, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried. Item 7.2, Delegates Report for the 25th of May 2021 to the 28th of June 2021. Thank you, Mr. Breathless.
Again, through you, Madam Mayor, this is the regular delegates report of councillors' actions over the last 4 weeks.
Thank you. Do I have a mover to the motion? Councillor Getson. And a seconder, Councillor Sharkey. Councillor Getson, would you like to speak? No worries. Seconder, Councillor Sharkey, would you like to speak?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor. Happy to take that as read.
Thank you. Is there any councillors who'd like to speak against the motion? Speak for the motion? Mover, would you like to close the debate?
I'd like to speak just to note some extra activities that I've been doing as part of a delegate representing the council. First one was the community solar night with Geelong Sustainability Group. Councillor Sharkey was also involved in that during the daytime. I think that was quite a successful event. There's also I participated in the Harvest Festival planning meeting, Environmental Forum Network, Environment Volunteers Network strategy meeting. I also represented the Shire, well, at least my own views and a lot of people in the Shire by participating in the Walk for Refugees and Asylum Seekers, where I also met other councillors from different shires. Regional Sustainability Alliance, I participated in their Zoom forum, and last Tuesday also that night was Future Proofing Your Land Forum, which was really interesting about regenerative farming, and there's quite a few farmers there and people willing to learn how to improve their land and make it more climate resilient. There was also a Turtle Bend committee meeting, and Saturday there was a Maud Land Care meeting I participated in, 9 o'clock before the Walk on Country event that some other Councillor Whitfield and Rowe also attended, and that was part of the upcoming NAIDOC Week recognition or celebration. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Councillor Gamble.
Madam Mayor?
Yes,
thank you.
Councillor Cunningham.
Yeah, also attended several other committee meetings and events, but a couple I'd like to particularly mention. One was Councillor Whitfield and myself attended the Bannockburn District Business Directory launch, which was a fantastic evening. It was about 40 to 50 representatives of local businesses. It was also good to hear the feedback that we had from the organisers and the committee regarding the Shire being a very exceptional supporter of the business, the local businesses, which is great. And also last week I attended with yourself, Mayor Kirby, Councillor Whitfield, Councillor Jepson, and some councillor officers led by Officer Josicevic. We met with the Shelford Committee of Management Group, which was a very, the feedback from that, from the people attended, especially the residents, was really good, and I think it set up some positive steps going forward. Thank you, Mayor Kirby.
Councillor Cunningham. Councillor Whitfield, did you want to speak?
thanks.
Sorry, I missed it at the start. My apologies.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. It's already been said by Councillor Gamble and Cunningham, a couple of events that we all attended. I did also attend the Inverleigh Progress Association AGM. Some great members there that have been leading the way for Inverleigh for many years. Attended the turning of the sod event at the Golden Plains Youth Hub. That project's been supported by the 3 levels of government. It's a very satisfying project to see in Bannockburn. I also attended a council and climate change meeting through a company called Mosaic Lab, where they provide information such as case studies and on what other councils are doing in this space, and they provided some templates for us as a council to create our own climate action plan. And I was able to meet with the Bannockburn Golden Oldies, a terrific organisation that encourages and enables senior gents to socialise and come together. I was able to be informed by them of their issues and what's most important to them. It was great to hear directly from them. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Whitfield. Councillor Rowe.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Look, I attended the sod turning at the Golden Plains Youth Hub as well. Also, last Saturday, the walk on the Moorabool River with Barry Gilson, starting at the Slate Quarry Road. Between the 26th of May and the 28th of May, I attended the Rural Council's Victoria Summit with the Mayor, Councillor Kirby, and Deputy Mayor, Councillor Ian Getson. I have in front of me here a report, which I would like to read out to the fellow councillors and officers and ratepayers. Thank you. I attended the Rural Council's Victoria Summit in Nagambie, commencing Wednesday the 26th of May through the 28th of May. Due to COVID regulations, an SOS was sent during Thursday's presentations that Friday fixtures were cancelled. However, most presentations were covered on the Thursday. First speaker up was the Honourable Mary Ann Thomas, MP, Minister for Regional Development. She spoke highly of local government staff and how hard they are working in the COVID arena. Also the leadership shown through the recent bushfires in eastern Victoria and the recovery from such a tragic event. Sometimes crisis sees the best in people, she commented. Mention was made of the biggest net migration of people to regional Victoria and the friends of families coming to the area in greater numbers. With the initiatives of travel vouchers, 4 out of 5 persons want to go back to finish having a look at their area of interest. There has been a massive injection of spending on affordable housing, $5.3 billion, quarter spent in regional Victoria. $6 million seasonal working accommodation spend for seasonal agricultural workers in areas like Bort, Robinvale, to cater for the olive grove workers and etc. $111 million on planning for housing development delivered through the VPA. Also unit development for aged people as they need to stay close to families. Regional jobs and funding got a mention, boosting economic development and boosting the amenity of rural Victoria. Comment was made of the number of tidy towns the Minister has noticed while travelling through rural Victoria, and the reward went to working for Victoria, staff, and putting people to work at a ground level. The next speaker was Liz Ritchie, CEO of Regional Victoria. She spoke about the visions for our regions. Regions are known as a strength, she said, and they are doing a lot of the heavy lifting. She mentioned local communities don't like to be told however they need communication. Regionalisation. 1 in 5 want to relocate from the city to regional Victoria for the simple reason more space, less stress, less traffic, and they want to move to more. Julie Reid, she was the Executive Director of Local Government Victoria. Julie spoke of the role of the Local Government Victoria having working with councils through the connection, support, example the workshops and seminars through the Local Government Act implementation, advocacy, information sharing and advice, and better outcomes, example joint working in an emergency, which has been seen through the COVID and the bushfires and droughts. She spoke of the importance of financial stability of rural councils. Another reminder was supporting a culture of good governance through respectful working relationships, understanding and supporting roles and responsibilities, and resolution of issues at the earliest opportunity. The 2021-22 Victorian budget has allocated $1.4 million over 2 years to support a road asset management sustainability program focused on small rural councils who are significantly burdened by the costs of maintaining and renewing their road assets. These updates will highlight some of the key work the Local Government Victoria delivers to support the sector. Another speaker was Lorna Matheson from DELP. Lorna spoke of building a sustainable and resilient circular economy with a $380 million spend to deliver Recycling Victoria, a new economy. The way forward is to reduce waste and establish a recycling system Victorians can rely on, and drive investment in infrastructure and stimulate innovation, create new jobs, economic growth for local and regional economies, and a resilient circular economy. Strengthen governance regulations and expand data systems. The benefits out of this is boosting Victoria's economy by up to $6.7 billion and create more than 3,900 new jobs and establish new skills, help businesses grow in new ways and create new sectors. Abate greenhouse gas emissions from the waste sector and drive greater resource recovery and reduce reliance on virgin materials. And finally, building a sustainable and resilient circular economy must be designed to last, repair and recycle, and use products to create more value, recycle more resources, and reduce harm from waste. There was a presentation here from Gunnawarra on their nature-based tourism business. It was presented on behalf of the Gunnawarra Shire. Their claim to fame is they're the home of the largest emu farm in Australia. They grow 40% of Australia's organic field processing tomatoes. The home of the largest solar battery storage system in Australia, and they've got the Brown Brothers winery in their shire. $40 million, got a $40 million new medicinal cannabis farm at Murrabit, and they're the home of the Gunbower Island, Australia's largest inland island. And they've also got the iconic Kundrup Wharf. And they mentioned that they're a great learning centre for up-and-coming local government CEOs. Land use has historically and typically been irrigated dairy and dry land cropping, but is changing significantly to a tourist destination for a lot of people. And finally, one of the last presenters was Bernard Salt. You probably heard of Bernard Salt. Bernard provides advice on demographic, consumer and social trends for business. He spoke of lifestyle communities located just beyond the edge of Melbourne, together with sea change and tree change communities are the fastest growing. In Golden Plains Shire, the local population jumped by 685 or 3% over the 12 months to June 2020. The completion of the Geelong Ring Road more than a decade ago delivered improved accessibility to communities west of Geelong. People are commuting from a rural community into a major city for work opportunities is the main driver of population growth across rural Victoria. The pandemic has triggered a shift in the way Australians work and the range of housing options, including living and working in regional and rural Victoria. Golden Plains is the tradies' paradise. 24% increase in ABNs in construction in 2017 to 20 versus the Victorian average of 9%. He went on to say perhaps it's time to focus not so much on a return to normal after the pandemic for rural councils, but to think boldly, ambitiously, outrageously about the kind of communities we want to build for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rowe. Very informative, and we love the statistics. Thanks. Councillor Sharkey.
Madam Mayor, I'm happy. No, thank you.
Councillor Getsom.
Councillor Rowe's a hard act to follow there. I had it written down here, but you've taken the words out of my book, please. But I must admit it was a very informative couple of days away. It was very great, and to meet other councillors from different shires and whatever, and hear what they're going. However, I attended the turning of the sod at Bannockburn with some councillors and things, so I'll be quicker to catch up. Also, I went to the Shelford meeting, which we had up there on a very wet night. And also last night I attended the AGM of the Committee of Management for the Hall Reserve at Napoleon's, and it was quite interesting. I sat on the table with two former mayors, one of the Shire, Golden Plains Shire, and one of the Bunnyong Shire. So it was a great night, very cold, but the hospitality was warm. So that's all I have, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Getsom. As for me, I've had quite a few on the agenda this month. Once again, I attended the Rural Summit Council of Victoria up in Nagambie. Just for the record there, we have the highest rate of 0 to 14s in our Shire from around Victoria, and that is we're at 22%. So we've really increased in those numbers. I've also had a meeting with the Department of Transport, met with Central Highlands Water, a lot of issues that we're talking about regarding Smilesdale and the way moving forward for a lot of the residents up in the north. The Central Highlands Council Victoria meeting, G21 board meeting, I won't go through them all, met with Gail Turney, the MP, once again the Golden Plains Youth Hub, the turning of the sod, which was a great event for the youth of Bannockburn. The Shelford meeting with the residents to hear some of their concerns was very good, and I think we're all on a good page going forward between council and the community. And I also attended the National General Assembly up in Canberra. So there was a lot to be learnt about the nation going forward, and this is, as we know, COVID, this has been one of the greatest events in recent memory, with the amount of level of economic support that's been given to all the shires around the nation. Regional Australia has, as a whole, has bounced back strongly and has benefited from growth in traditional industries. Demand for moving into the regions is strong, but more of a case of people are staying put and they're not leaving our regions. So it's a good point to make, that people don't want to leave our Shire. The construction boom will support the growth of jobs, but the supply over the next year will also see shortages within the industry. So how do we address regional shortages in housing and ensure that affordability remains? That's a question for us councillors. Vaccinations was also a topic for discussion. As we know, councils already do this. This could be a way of connecting with our smaller towns across the Golden Plains and Australia as a whole. So overall, we do this now in all our communities. We do the immunisations for children, adults, and I think the government has passed up a big chance to have these vaccinations taking place in some of our local areas. We met with our federal member Libby Coker at Parliament House, and our discussions were about the new seat of Tucker. Dan Team was also at Parliament House and we met with him, but we also believe in this next round that we will move out of his electorate and be part of the Ballarat electorate. We also heard about the environment and farming working together in partnership. While there is climate uncertainty, there is a driving investment around Australia. In regional Australia, where are the housing investors? As rentals are tightening, there needs to be 10% more growth, and councils need to plan for this, now with amenity for our new citizens. Waste management and the circular economy was also another event I attended while I was there. So I think overall I won't go into it too much more, but I've had a very fruitful month and really enjoyed my time in Canberra. Thank you. Councillor Getson, you moved it. Would you like to speak?
Yes, Madam Mayor. It's great councillors getting out these cold nights and whatever, and during days and whatever. So, and expanding like we did going in the Gambia. I think it's we're putting ourselves on the map, and we're letting our ratepayers see that we are getting about and we are interested in performing our duties. Thank you.
Thank you. I will now put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Item 7.3, Community Strengthening Grants, Round 1 for 2021. Thank you, Ms Letty.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Council delivers a community grant scheme to support community groups in the implementation of projects and events that are important to them and to their communities. 2 grant rounds are available each year in April and September. This report provides the outcomes of the first round for 2021. 13 applications were received, with 8 coming from the Community Strengthening Grants program, and a further 5 applications were referred from the COVID Quick Response Grant, as it was a better fit from the applications. 12 of these have been assessed as being successful for a total of $44,531. These are considered under 5 themes: health and wellbeing, sports and recreation projects through Healthy Active Living stream, the arts and culture projects through the Creative Communities stream, environmental projects through the Environmental and Sustainability stream, and community safety initiatives through the Community Safety stream. Council's contribution of $44,531 for Round 1 Community Strengthening Grants will deliver over $99,000 in value through the fantastic contribution of the community to these projects. Thank you.
Any questions, councillors? No? If not, we'll move on. Council's community strengthening grants are a valuable source of financial support for local events, projects and programs in our Golden Plains Shire communities. Applications for Round 1 of this year's program were open during April and were available in 4 different categories: environment and sustainability, community safety, creative communities, and healthy and active living. Council is thrilled that 12 community projects will share in the $44,531 of funding from this grant program. We've invited each of these community groups to watch on through the live stream, as our council group has the honour of announcing the successful projects. Deputy Mayor Councillor Ian Getson, you're off to a start with the community safety grants. Thanks.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Point of order, Madam Mayor. Do you mind if we move the motion and have it moved as a council decision, and then we're actually speaking to a council decision?
We can do that, yes.
All
right, yep.
So I'm happy, and I'm happy to move the motion.
All right.
And there's plenty to speak to here too, but I just feel it more comfortable if we, as a council, make the decision and speak to it afterwards.
All right.
So happy to move the motion.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Cunningham. Sorry, Councillor Owen, Sharkey, would you
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Happy to put that straight to a vote.
All right, thank you. All right, Councillor, where are we up to? Councillor Getson, sorry.
Vote.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, Madam Mayor, happy to put it straight to a vote.
Oh, straight to a vote. You don't want to wait till after we've read through the grants and then vote?
The point of me putting forward the motion is that council has made a decision, and then we're able to speak to congratulate the community after having made the decision.
All right, okay, that's fine. Yep.
I don't suspect there's any debate, but just for procedural.
Okay, that's fine. Yep. But I have to put it forward. Is there anyone who'd like to speak for or against the motion going forward? No? Okay, I'll put the vote. Would you like to sum up, Councillor?
No, happy to put it straight to a vote. Something
All
I'm
in
sure we'll be
favour?
very proud of. Thank you.
Thank you. Carried unanimously. Councillor Getson.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. First of all, Linton Community Safety Plan, Connecting Communities and Leaders. Linton and District Progress Association is seeking to establish a Linton neighbourhood plan based on a co-design approach with both the local community and emergency service agencies. Council will provide the sum of $6,000 towards Connecting Community and Leaders program, which will include an emergency services agency's bus tour, community forum, community education resources, film resources and meetings. Number 2 is a shower ventilation project. The Smilesdale Progress Association will purchase and install exhaust fans in the free camp shower block at the popular Smilesdale Public Gardens, thanks to a community safety grant. The installation of the shower block fan will ensure the facility is compliant and COVID safe for both the volunteers who clean and maintain the facility and the community members who use it. Council is excited to provide $800 towards a shower ventilation project. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Getson, congratulations. Councillor Brett Cunningham, Creative Community Grants.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through the council community grants, we're able to provide support and assistance to clubs and community groups throughout the Shire. These groups, organisations are usually 100% run by volunteers, and most have been extremely affected through COVID. The Creative Community Grants are available to assist groups to undertake arts and culture projects within Golden Plains Shire that directly benefit the Golden Plains community. In round 1 of the 2021 program, Council has awarded Creative Community Grants to 3 organisations. The first one is Music at the Market. The Smilesdale Community Planning Group is seeking to support the development of live music and performances at the Smilesdale Community Country Market, inspired by the success of live music at this year's Smilesdale's Art and Music Fiesta. The Music at the Market project aims to feature local groups, encourage local amateur performers with open mic sessions, provide residents with the opportunities to join community artistic projects. Council is excited to fund this project to the value of $2,300. Number 2 is Connecting the Past while looking to the future. The Meredith History Interest Group has been successful in securing a community strengthening grant for its Connecting the Past while looking to the Future project. This project will deliver 3 historical community events over the next year as a way to reconnect the community of Meredith post-COVID-19 restrictions. The features will include a book launch of the Pub and Publicans of Meredith 1840 to 1960, a photo exhibition on Stiglett's gold mining past, and a Lost Trades weekend. Council is proud to support the Meredith History Interest Group with $3,800 towards running of these events.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham, and congratulations to those groups. Councillor Owen Sharkey.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Council is also proud to contribute $5,795 to the Smilesdale Art and Music Community Fiesta to assist with event support for the popular community event. This funding will go towards performers and artist fees, as well as advertising and equipment hire for the event. This will help increase the viability of the Smilesdale Art and Music Community Fiesta as a sustainable and established annual event. Healthy Active Living grants are available to assist groups and organisations undertake sport, recreation, health and wellbeing projects that directly benefit the Golden Plains Shire community. 5 groups were recipients of Round 1 Healthy Active Living grants. Bannockburn Inclusive is a recently formed social group providing opportunities for people with disabilities and the elderly to meet and interact in a social and friendly environment. Council is extremely proud to contribute $1,600 towards the transport, catering and promotion of Bannockburn's Bannockburn's inclusive planned bus and ferry social trip to Sorrento. This trip aims to reduce social isolation and improve the mental health of participants with an enjoyable trip. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sharkey, and congratulations to those groups. Councillor Les Rowe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Safety items. The Golden Plains Trail Riders have secured a healthy and active living community strengthening grant for its safety items project. Council will contribute $640 towards the purchase of a radio and portable safety signage. The project's focus is on rider safety, with portable crossing signage to alert riders and community members of road crossing points, and the radio will allow for volunteer support to enable communication. Community seating and gardening group equipment. The Linton and District Progress Association has been successful in securing a healthy and active living community strengthening grant. Council will contribute $7,024 to the association's community seating and gardening group equipment project. The funding will be used to purchase equipment, create a new seating area, replace an existing seating area, and in further enhance the local community garden. The project will work alongside Council's Northern Streetscapes project and the group's existing Edinburgh Reserve project. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rowe. Councillor Gavin Gamble.
Thank you, Mayor. On behalf of our council, I'd like to congratulate the Lethbridge Public Hall with replacement of ovens and the Inverleigh Cemetery Trust for new seating. The Lethbridge Public Hall is currently used every Friday for a community social group, among other community social events. However, the facility is limited to how it can cater for community events and gatherings with its current equipment. Council is pleased to award the Lethbridge Public Hall with a $2,042 community strengthening grant to be used to purchase and install 2 new ovens in this facility. The Inverleigh Cemetery Trust has seating for rest and reflection. Council is pleased to support the Inverleigh Cemetery Trust to install 2 seats in the cemetery grounds. Council is contributing $2,930 towards a project that will provide a place of rest and reflection for visitors. The provision of seating at the cemetery aims to meet the needs of the various visitors to the cemetery. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gamble. Congratulations to those groups. Councillor Clayton Whitfield.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Environment and Sustainability Grants. The Environment and Sustainability Grants program offers grants to assist groups, organisations, individuals to undertake environmental and sustainability projects on public and private land within Golden Plains Shire. Environment and Sustainability Grants have been awarded to 2 community groups. Firstly, for an open space mower replacement, the Inverleigh Progress Association is seeking to replace its mower. The mower has been used for the past 7 years by dedicated volunteers to keep the Lee River open space area clear of noxious weeds and vermin, and now the mower is out of warranty. Council is pleased to contribute $10,000 to the Inverleigh Progress Association towards the replacement mower. The second group being the Inverleigh Primary School. for raised beds for edible garden project. The Inverleigh Primary School Gardening Group is planning to establish an edible community garden and has been successful in securing an environment and sustainability community strengthening grant from Council. The gardening group will use the $1,600 from Council to purchase 4 slimline raised beds for a vegetable and herb garden, as well as apple, plum and native bush tucker trees. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Whitfield, and congratulations to those groups. So the recommendation is that Council acknowledge the approved community strengthening grants, round 1 for 2021, as summarised. Did we move the debate earlier? Sorry, we did. Thank you, that's all right. All right, so congratulations to all them groups, and I hope that we're able to meet in person for the second round grants later in the year. Thank you. Item 7.4, P20087, Crown Allotment 37E, Piggereet Road, Piggereet, for the dwelling and native vegetation removal. I'll ask the Director to brief.
Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Gibson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
This report relates to a planning permit application for dwelling and associated native vegetation removal at Crown Allotment 37E, Piggereet Road, Piggereet. The application has been referred to a council meeting for determination, as council officers consider that the application does not satisfy the provisions of the planning scheme and should be refused. Councillors have also been provided with a full copy of the application for consideration prior to making a decision. The site is a vacant bush block with a total area of approximately 5.6 hectares. The land is undulating and contains remnant bushland. Access to the site is from Piggereet Road, which is an all-weather gravel road managed by council. Surrounding land is predominantly in a farming zone, except for Crown land reserves along the Wodialloc River and Devil's Kitchen Geological Formation, which are in a public conservation and resource zone. There is a dwelling on the adjoining land to the south, but otherwise the surrounding area consists of farmland and bushland. A planning permit for a dwelling on the land was previously issued in 2013, but was not acted on. There are no covenants applying to the land. The application proposes to use and development of the land for a dwelling and associated native vegetation removal. The dwelling is proposed to be located towards the front of the property with a setback distance of 42.6 metres from Piggereet Road and 39 metres from the nearest side, which is a northern boundary. The proposed dwelling is a single-storey residence containing 3 bedrooms, living and meals area, amenities and garage. The proposed dwelling is not associated with any agricultural use. The application suggests that a dwelling is required to facilitate the environmental management of the land and provide the owner with a base to undertake conservation work such as weed and pest control. The application involves the removal of a small area of native vegetation for the effluent disposal system associated with the dwelling. It should be noted Vcat has consistently refused applications for dwellings on small lots in the farming zone where the dwelling is not complementary and subservient to an agricultural use. There have been 2 recent examples within our Shire where the applications were refused because the dwellings were not considered to be necessary for the management of an agricultural use. In this case, the proposed dwelling is not related to an agricultural use, and as I mentioned earlier, it is suggested that the dwelling will enable the owner to reside on site to manage the environmental issues of that particular site. In summary, the application is not considered to satisfy the provisions of the planning scheme, including the municipal planning strategy and planning policy framework. The rural dwelling has the potential to lead to a proliferation of dwellings in the area, affect the operation of nearby agricultural uses and result in the loss of productive agricultural land. It is therefore recommended that Council resolves to issue a notice of decision to refuse to grant a permit for the use and development of a dwelling and associated native vegetation removal for the reasons stated in the report. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Josipovic. Is there any questions to the Director, Councillors?
Yeah, thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Just through you, Madam Mayor. I know it was sort of outlined in the report, but more, a lot of these reports in the past have always had supporting evidence from objectors, and I'm just seeking a little bit further clarification as to why there was no community notification or engagement in terms of notifying the neighbours on this one. Thank you very much.
Mr. Josipovic.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Section 52 of the Planning Environment Act requires council or the property owner to provide notice to the adjoining owners unless the responsible authority is satisfied that the grant of the permit would not cause material detriment to any person. So each application we receive, we assess whether there's a potential for material detriment. And in this case, as I mentioned, with a house being, there's a single house to the south, which is still a fair distance away, we assess that should the planning permit be, or should a planning permit be issued, there'd be no material detriment to any people in the area. Therefore, we didn't give notice.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Any other questions, councillors? Councillor Cunningham.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you, I'm just wondering, there was mention there that there had previously been a permit approved, which had been for a previous owner. So I'm just wondering what guidelines might have changed between the time that that permit was approved till now. Thank you.
So I don't believe there's been much change in terms of the planning scheme, and I would probably suggest that the initial permit that was issued was prior to Vcat making some strong decisions on development of dwellings on farming zone. So that has guided the decision making across the local government sector, I must say, over the last probably 5 or 6 years. Some of those benchmark decisions, for want of a better term.
Thank you.
Any other questions, councillors? No? Okay, we'll move on then. We have a public presentation from Julie Lee on behalf of the applicant. Thank you.
Can you hear me? Thank you, Madam Mayor and councillors, for the opportunity to present at this meeting. I just want to reiterate with that last question, there has been a large number of changes to the Planning Environment Act in relation to farming zones since 2014, which supports the regional strategies. And prior to that, in 2013, Council didn't have a policy of saying no to everything, so it was a completely different kettle of fish. The owner at the time has since sold the property over to somebody else. In relation to Council's response, it's all unquantified, except making references to productive agricultural land use conflicts and setting precedents. It goes on quite extensively in relation to land use conflicts, and yet if there were to be land use conflicts, it's very strange that the application wasn't referred to adjacent landholders. So on page 30, Council sees that there is no risk to adjacent landholders, but then goes on to say that there are a lot of risks to land use conflicts. So I find that a little bit ambiguous. The second point is that Piggereet Road is not an all-weather road. I have a photo of it. It is a sealed road, which is serviced by Council. I have photos here if you'd like me to pass them around. The other thing is that the dwelling doesn't relate to agricultural use. In the Planning and Environment Act terms of definitions, agriculture is land used to propagate, cultivate or harvest plants, seeds, trees, keep or breed animals, and propagate or cultivate living resources in aquatic areas. All of these uses are not available on this block because it is covered by remnant vegetation. The site also contains a threatened species, which is extremely important to the Central Victorian Uplands bioregion. And in my report, I provided photographic documentation and actually keyed those species out. Just one other point is that at times it's sort of difficult to understand that these properties can't be rezoned into something that would be more appropriate to the use, like rural conservation. In 2018, the Minister made a change in the planning scheme that basically negated these rezone changes unless you can achieve a BAL of 12.5. as council would be familiar with those in making rezoning applications. Just to go on from that, I'm a full member of the Planning Institute of Australia, a member of the Victorian Planning and Environmental Planning Association of Australia, and soon to be an associate of the Regenerative and Sustainable Agriculture when I finish my postgraduate degree in that area. I also have undergraduate qualifications in ecology, land and conservation as well. Council has referred to two Vcat planning applications, and I have photographs of those. That's the first one. It's open farmland, where if you were to put a house, it's quite obvious that it would have impacts on adjacent farms. I've also had a look at the land use capacity for this, and when I say that we quantify a response, is that it's not merely my opinion. It's quantified because it's based on scientific data. In my report, you will see a land capability assessment, which is based on data direct from the CSIRO. The same data is used by Department of Agriculture and Deakin University for their assessments on farming zone for the New Engage for the peri-urban area. So I'm not just saying it's not productive agricultural land. I actually quantify that for you. And I have copies here if anybody needs a refresher on that. Now I've lost my place. So we look at the two Vcat cases, and basically both of them are open farmland. They both have capacity to have a wide range of agricultural uses, which makes them completely different from this site, which is fully covered by remnant vegetation, and in my report is a land class 4. Land class 4 is defined as a soil which doesn't have a capacity, a very, very limited capacity for agriculture, as defined in the Department of Agriculture's recent assessment manual. In relation to this application, it does have a number of social, economic and environmental attributes to it, which I fully quantified in a 4-page risk analysis, which I have a copy of here if anybody wants to have a refresher on that. And in relation to one of the Vcat decisions, which was the first one, was a property just outside of Meredith where council were taking a Vcat, and the decision was upheld by Vcat, but the member did in point 35 say that the proposal does not demonstrate a development that is based on comprehensive or sustainable land management practices as set out in the purposes of the farming zone, to an extent that warrants a deviation from the policy. So in 3507, which is the clause for farming zone, it's not just about farming and agriculture. There is a point there in relation to sustainable land management. I draw your attention...
Ms. Lee, your 5 minutes is up.
Oh.
Thank you. No worries. Thank you for your presentation. Any questions, councillors? Councillor Field?
Thanks, Ms. Lee. The intent to provide or conduct weed and pest control, can it be done without having a dwelling there?
I'm really happy that you asked me that, because in the application in 2013 there were, when I did the site assessment for that, there were weeds on the property. When I went back to do this one, the site was colonised by a larger proportion of weeds, and so the owner hadn't undertaken any weed control. Those weeds aren't always legislated under the Catchment and Land Protection Act or as a noxious weed, but they still have impacts on biodiversity, especially when the site is a very high level of biodiversity. But they could do them, but there is not really the trigger for them to do that, except if council were to monitor all those blocks on a regular basis and contacted the Department of Ag to come in and instigate that. So it has a high level of compliance from council.
Any other questions, councillors? No? If not, thank you, Ms Lee, for your presentation. We have a recommendation before us, councillors. Do I have a mover to the motion?
Happy to move the motion. Happy to move the recommendation, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Sharkey. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Whitfield. Councillor Sharkey, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. These applications come on across our tables every now and again, and they are quite difficult planning applications to consider, and the applicant has showed a huge amount of depth and knowledge there tonight with some really good points. I do agree, and I did raise that question earlier on, that I do agree that it feels like we're sort of contradicting ourselves in here, and we are the authority, the reasonable authority, and if we are satisfied to grant a permit, we would not. That we feel doesn't cause material detriment to anyone. We don't go to neighbours. I'd prefer to see us be a council that errs on the side of caution, and if we were to support this tonight, we'd be supporting something without having notified some of the neighbours, which I personally feel very uncomfortable with. This is a big application. I honestly believe this is bigger than us as a council. This is one that I do see going off to Vcat. These items have come before us numerous times. It is in the farming zone, and whilst I personally agree with several of the comments there tonight, if we're fair income about passing something like this, I think we as a council need to have a conversation at another time and place around the planning scheme and some of these blocks of land, because a couple of examples that the applicant presented there were sort of cleared sites, and they are detrimental to the farming zone. But if we were to support the application and go against the recommendation, we would be opening a floodgate and a lot of possible risks that are unbeknown to us. So I'm happy to support the recommendation based on those reasons, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Councillor Whitfield.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I note Councillor Sharkey's points there. They make complete sense. Yes, in seconding this motion, I do have empathy with the applicant, particularly around perhaps misleading information. Seeing that there was a permit held once before would indicate that it should be available again. But unfortunately, as was pointed out, the Vcat decisions would indicate otherwise. These types of blocks, they're plentiful in the Shire, these smaller farm lot sizes. Councillor Sharkey's right, and perhaps that they're not being utilised to their maximum, and that would require a trip to revisit the planning scheme. The other impact, of course, is in allowing residential development to spread out like that. There would be a burden on council when it comes to maintenance and infrastructure spreading out to all those areas, and I think we need to consider that. But I will fall back to the planning scheme as it sits, and for a farm zone, it actually recommends the encouragement of consolidating those smaller lots rather than building on them. So, yeah, I'm sorry, but that's the position I've taken. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Whitfield. Is there any councillor who'd like to speak for or against the motion? Councillor Gamble?
I'll speak for the recommendation on the basis that the officer's recommendations are very clear and strong, and the principle we have in trying to restrict urban or housing to specific areas around townships or contain the spread of houses in the landscape, partly because of what Councillor Whitfield was saying, the infrastructure implications, the extra costs associated with it. Yeah, it's a thanks for your presentation. It's a trickier one, this one, and it's sort of it's a bit of the grey area thing. I think the controlled development is overall for the community good, and just picking up on another point, the remnant vegetation is not necessarily incompatible with farmland use either. It's you know, it's one of the principles of regenerative farming to be able to combine it with a fair bit of vegetation. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Gamble. Is there any other councillors who'd like to speak for the motion? Speak against the motion? If not, Councillor Sharkey, would you like to sum up?
Madam Mayor, with that, no one speaking against much.
Right. Okay, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? Carried. Item 7.5, adoption of the Golden Plains Shire Council Plan 2021 to 2025. Thank you, Director Lettick.
Thank you very much. This report seeks Council's adoption of the Council Plan 2021 to 2025, incorporating the Municipal Public Health and Wellbeing Plan. A number of stages were undertaken in developing the Council Plan, and beginning in November 2022 with the adoption of the Golden Plains Shire's Community Vision 2040. The Community Vision provided Council with clear community guidance on the priorities for action and a framework for the creation of the Council Plan, including 4 of the 5 themes. The 5th theme, leadership, relates to the organisational performance. Extensive community engagement and a series of councillor workshops informed the development of a draft plan that was presented to Council at its meeting on the 27th of April for public exhibition between the 28th of April and the 26th of May 2021. Council received 10 public submissions and 3 respondents addressed Council to further support their submissions. All of these submissions were considered along with further internal staff and councillor feedback, and the draft report was amended to reflect the feedback, and it is presented here today. The plan outlines a number of strategic directions under each theme and makes a commitment in the first year to a wide range of exciting actions. It also acknowledges and references the large number of council services that Council delivers each day, and the strategies that continue to guide Council's operation and contribute to the achievement of the community vision. The recommendation is to note the verbal and written submissions received and considered at the 8th of June 2021 Council meeting, and that Council adopt the Golden Plains Shire Council Plan 2021-2025 in accordance with Section 90 of the Local Government Act 2020 as attached. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Lettick. Any questions, councillors? No, I think they're all happy. All right. Do we have a mover for the motion? Councillor Cunningham? Do we have a seconder? Councillor Sharkey. Councillor Cunningham, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge the commitment from Council in ensuring that the public exhibition consultation process and the submission process was extremely well done. I also acknowledge the commitment of my fellow councillors in supporting and attending after-hour workshops and public engagements and events throughout the Shire. The 2021 to 2025 Council Plan will assist with the future direction and introduction of priority initiatives and actions, and has a real focus, I believe, on delivering applicable services and infrastructure into the community over the next 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. Councillor Sharkey, would you like to speak?
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Mayor. This is, from a councillor's perspective, this is a great news story, a very easy one to speak to. Following Councillor Cunningham's lead there, I'd also like to firstly congratulate the organisation itself, and a special mention to the authors there. Both Ben and Derek behind the scenes have done a fantastic job on this. Senior management team has done a fantastic job in leading us on this. I must admit, 4 years ago as an incoming councillor, I had no idea about any strategic documents or underpinning and overarching. It was completely different language to me. And I spent probably the last 4 years really trying to get an understanding of what the actual council plan does. I made a strong point, a personal point, to really get involved with the council plan this time. And as I said, it's fantastic the organisation has done this. We have done this in-house. Most other councils across Victoria would spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on this document, bringing in external consultants and the like, but we have seen an absolutely fantastic job being done. It is a very difficult document, and whilst we acknowledge public engagement and consultation, it's quite a... I must admit, I personally struggle speaking to the public on this, trying to get to link their thoughts, words into the plan. It is quite a difficult one to get yourself involved with, and you know, this council plan now will guide us as councillors and an organisation over the next 4 years as we thrive to achieve many goals and outcomes. There is a lot of strong words in there regarding advocacy, working for strengthening communities and that. So there's some fantastic initiatives in there, and we look forward to, as councillors, keeping an eye on that quarterly over the next 4 years during our term on council. Some of the strong words that shined out to me through the process were being inclusive, building strong, safe and resilient communities, promoting and a connection to our Indigenous heritage, improving our assets that we have, maintaining our character, our rural character, and there has been a strong emphasis within it on the environment and in particular climate change. So it's been a really exciting document, Madam Mayor. Again, thank you very much to the organisation right from the top down in terms of helping lead us through this quite long and fruitful process, and very proud to endorse this here tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Sharkey. Councillor... probably done you. Sorry.
I think anyone else?
I think sorry,
no.
you were the mover.
Oh,
sorry, Councillor Cunningham.
That's okay.
Did you wish to speak? Sorry.
Anyone else? No.
Yeah, sorry, Councillor Cunningham. Would you like to speak? Sorry.
He has.
I have.
Oh, lost
That's okay.
that. Sorry, anyone like to speak for or against?
To speak for, Madam
Thank
Mayor.
you.
Thanks. Yes, well said by both councillors there. I've actually pulled out a few of the items that and initiatives that I'm really pleased to see that made it into the council plan or are continuing on from the last one. And I'll just share some of those if I could, thanks. So developing, implementing access and provision of health and wellbeing services across the Shire, including mental health support services and resources. Promoting participation and activities through the provision of council facilities, maintenance and works to ensure that facilities are fit for purpose. Realising and promoting the potential of Golden Plains youth through a program of youth events and advocating for a new service provision around youth outreach. advocating for further investment in roads infrastructure, looking into options to provide pedestrian crossings in townships, completing a transport trial, providing attractive design that preserves rural appeal in our streetscapes, maintaining the amenity of townships, particularly around drainage service and cleaning, ensuring our native vegetation, ecosystems and flora and fauna are protected, implementing approaches to mitigate climate change, investigating partnerships with TAFE and higher education to service the community, providing council-based opportunities for locals including apprenticeships and traineeships, enhancing deliberate engagement to involve the community in decision-making, council operating in an open and transparent manner, and improving the customer experience through timely responses. That's just a few of the over 80 actions, Madam Mayor, across the 5 key themes. It aligns with the 2040 community vision. And I've seen from the organisation that the buy-in is very strong for this plan, and I look forward to its implementation over the next 4 years. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Whitfield. Is there anyone who'd like to speak against the motion? Is there anyone who'd like to speak for the motion? Councillor Rowe?
Yeah, thanks a lot, Madam Mayor. I'd like to just endorse what the other fellow councillors have mentioned. Look, a lot of work has gone into this plan, as has already been mentioned. This has been a plan that's had a lot of thought placed in it, especially by the officers, alongside my fellow councillors and myself. It certainly gives great direction in the way forward. And look, and I hope many of the initiatives, to be honest with you, in the plan are implemented. I know the last plan, some of those initiatives that we did put in there didn't come to fruition. So with this plan, I'll be hoping that they all, or most of the items there come to fruition. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rowe. Is there anyone else who'd like? Councillor Gamble?
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks for the other speakers on the supporting the plan. I think it's a great document. I'd like to acknowledge the Golden Plains Shire as an organisation, and particularly the leading officers and guides in this journey, which are Ben Jordan, Manager Community and Council Planning, and Derek Scott. Also the fellow councillors in doing things like on the market day with coffee with the councillors, and we had our little cards asking people to fill in and to contribute their ideas. We're out there in the wind and the rain, and but there was a lot of background work done to putting this forward, to developing this document, including the Community Vision 2040, and we have to acknowledge our previous councillor term group in all of that background work. And so I see this as a further development of these ideas of progress, and looking for the best we can in our community and planning to achieve it. I'd also like to mention the excellent design and layout of the document. So the part of those council officers don't always get a mention, but there's also Ben and Derek did a fair bit of work turning our scrawled post-it notes on butcher's paper and that sort of phase of things into legible ideas and concepts and actions. And I think it was, I was impressed with the rigorous and fair process in which it was undertaken, and the genuine commitment to reflect the people who have sensible, thoughtful and informed ideas, and obviously a love of their community and wanting to improve it. And they're like the people who made, not just the people who put the have your say cards in, but also the people who bothered to write submissions on the draft document, from which more ideas were generated, and some of those were incorporated. I believe the plan is an excellent reflection of the aspirations of our council, and the strengthening of, for me, the strengthening of the sustainability goals, including action on climate change and greater protection of the environment, are highlights. I see it as not just an aspirational document, but it's a practical roadmap for the 3 years or 3.5 years now that we've got ahead. It's a lot of it is sort of guidance, umbrella statements, and it's up to us to put the flesh on the bone, so to speak, with how we direct budget money, and also time and resources of people, including ourselves. That said, I would have liked to have seen more strategic indicators to provide extra benchmarking, and for something like sustainability, it's some of the things are a little bit hard, but I know they're being worked on at the moment. Like with David Evans is working, he's the manager for environment, he's working on accumulating data to work out, to get a more precise level of our emissions in the Shire, because it's pretty hard to set benchmarks when we don't actually have a database to start with. So it's a pity it wasn't done before this, but that's as it is. So yeah, overall I'm very happy with it and very pleased, and see it as a document that we can all get a lot of different things out of, and help the community achieve those things too, because it's not just it's obviously not our ideas, it's been generated from the community, and we put particular maybe emphasis on different parts and how we'd like to see it documented, but it's fundamentally a community-driven document. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gamble. That was great. Is there any other councillors who'd like to speak for or against? If not, I'll ask Councillor Cunningham to sum up. Thank you.
Mayor, yes, just agree with all the comments by my fellow councillors. Also, in particular, I support and acknowledge Councillor Sharkey's comments regarding this document being done in-house. It's a massive saving in cost if you go out to the marketplace to have a company do that. It'd be tens and tens of thousands of dollars. And once again, councillors do acknowledge the work of all council officers, departments and the organisation involved in this this great document. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. Okay, I'd like to put it to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? Carried. I'd also just like to thank the residents of the Shire for being part of this. It's been about 2 years since we started this process, and the 2040 Vision Group was a great group to work with. Also like to thank the councillors for coming along to all the coffee with the councillor days, the different events we've been attending. And a special thank you to the residents who actually come out and come and spoke to us and supported us. In some communities there was a lot of people, in some communities there was only a handful. But at the end of the day, that's what we're here for, to listen to your concerns, and we also hear some great things of what you say to us and what you enjoy about the Shire as well. So thank you. Item 7.6, the adoption of the Golden Plains Shire Council Budget 2021 to 22. Thank you, Director O'Sullivan.
Madam Mayor, this report seeks to formally adopt the 2021-2022 annual budget, incorporating the 2021-2022 rating fees and charges pursuant to Section 96 of the Local Government Act 2020, and also the 2021 to 2025 revenue and rating plan. The 2021-22 budget has been prepared based on the adopted principles within the 2021 to 2025 Council Plan and the Financial Plan, within the framework of a 1.5% increase cap rate increase set by the state government. After making the document available for public inspection and inviting submissions under Section 96 of the Local Government Act 2020, Council received a total of 14 submissions. A meeting of Council was held on Tuesday the 8th of June to hear from 5 submitters who requested to address Council in support of their submission. A number of amendments have been made to the budget following the public exhibition, which are outlined in the report. The key The final key budget points to note are a total operating revenue of $54.9 million, operating expenditure of $47.3 million, which enables us to continue to deliver the services to the Golden Plains community with an increased focus, as has been over the last few years, on infrastructure maintenance. This results in an operating surplus of $7.6 million. Once we remove the one-off capital grants received from external agencies, we end up with an underlying deficit of $0.4 million. We do have a cash inflow from our operations of $14.9 million, and we are investing $18.2 million into our capital works program, which is made up of asset renewals of 55%, capital upgrades of 31%, and new assets of 14%. It's also important to note that as part of the Local Government Act 2020, Council are required to adopt a 4-year revenue and rating plan, and that the plan can be reviewed and updated at any time during the 4-year period. Due to the timing of the state government release of their rating review earlier this year, and then an updated rating strategy was adopted by councillors last year, it was agreed another review of our rating strategy would commence in August 2021. I'm happy to take any further questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Director O'Sullivan. Any questions, councillors? Councillor Whitfield?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Through you, Director O'Sullivan, can you please explain about the potential profits from Lamandra Drive sales and how they'll be used? Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Whitfield. So the Lamandra sale income will be incorporated into our consolidated revenue. So it's incorporated like we do with our rate revenue. And this will assist us to fund our capital works program and also our services to the community. So it is part of how we manage our expenses.
Thank you. And one further one, Madam Mayor. Borrowings in the balance sheet of this budget for 24-25 period are set to increase to around 14 mil. I actually had a discussion with you about this yesterday. You said it was in response to reducing capital grants that might come in. Could you expand on that for me, please?
Thank you, Councillor Whitfield. So, yeah, future year borrowings, especially when we're talking in the 4th year, are really included as a bit of a last resort contingency to help fund our capital program. It's often that borrowings are there because the third-party capital grants that we receive from either state or federal are often unknown until the year of those funds are available. So as a result, for us to be able to maintain our capital program at the levels we're doing today, we fund that through borrowings until we can be confirmed or certain up that those external fund grants will be received. Thanks.
Any other questions, councillors? None?
Yep.
Okay. Oh, Councillor Gamble?
Director O'Sullivan, with the, I have concerns about the debt levels and so do many citizens, ratepayers. At the moment, they seem to be significantly higher than our neighbourhood shires. And but in what way do you believe that we can take them down in the next few years, please?
Thank you, Councillor Gamble. So one reason with debt is that it does allow us to fund our capital program, and for us to be able to continue to provide the same level of capital projects to our community, we either do that through council cash or through external funding or otherwise debt. I will say that it was agreed and it went out for adoption that this building, the GPCC, would be funded through borrowings, and it was a one-off borrowing amount that was a decision made. So over the next years we will be paying that off and reducing our debt, but as noted, we will need to pick up debt if we aren't able to receive any external funding from state or federal governments.
What's the likelihood of that external funding being available?
Yeah, generally speaking, and this will be part of our 10-year rating plan and forecasting, is that when you look over previous years, you know, we always forecast around between $3 and $5 million in external funding. But then in the year that it occurs, that can increase, that can nearly double with the release of different grants that are available through either the state budget, the federal budget of that year. So unfortunately, it's very hard to forecast, but it can be up to $4 to $5, $6 million extra in the year that they're released.
Gamble. Any other questions, councillors? If not, we have a recommendation before us. Do I have a mover for the recommendation? Councillor Whitfield?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to put forward an alternate motion.
Right, thank you. And would you like to read it out? Thank you. The alternate motion is that Council note the verbal and written submissions received and considered at 8th June 2021 Special Council meeting. Note the declaration of rates included in the 21-22 budget. Approve $50,000 to continue the COVID-19 financial hardship policy into 21-22 and an additional $50,000 to deliver a COVID-19 recovery program. Part 4 there, resolve to adopt the 21-22 budget for the purpose of Section 96 of the Local Government Act 2020 as attached, and subject to the following change being that the 21-22 waste charge be reduced by $6 by removing the costs associated with roadside stockpile reduction program, and that a report be presented to Council once the end of 2021 year accounts are finalised, and that consideration be made to using any surplus generated from the waste management account to fund the roadside stockpile program in 21-22 up to $60,000. Calls for a waste management activity report be presented to a councillor briefing to consider the future services, related costs and the required revenue to deliver waste management activities, including legislative changes to provide a food and organics and glass collection service. 6, commit to a review of the rating strategy prior to the adoption of the 22-23 council budget. And 7, adopt the 21-22 to 24-25 revenue and rating plan for the purpose of Section 93 of the Local Government Act 2020. Thank you, Councillor Whitfield. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Whitfield, would you like to speak to the amendment at all? Just what? Yes.
Madam Mayor. So essentially the alternate motion is just adding or reducing the proposed waste charge by $6 and taking it out of another pool of money rather than the ratepayers. And it's asking for a couple of waste management reports to be done. But otherwise it's in perfect alignment with the budget as presented, and I'll speak to it. Yeah, there are some good things in this budget that I'd like to pull out. There is an increase of staff resources in areas such as infrastructure maintenance and renewal. There's an increase to fire track maintenance. There's $76,000 to retain the Napoleon's bore. There's $80,000 for the Common Road swale drain upgrade. There's $100,000 for car park projects and $250K for footpaths. They're just some of the increased figures. Overall, this fiscal year has been a much better year than was expected. It was predicted to have quite a large deficit, and the organisation has been able to reduce that to $427,000. Some external factors like the additional insurance expenses have prevented it from being better. Any year that results in a deficit is not ideal, but this is an improved position on what was expected, and forecasts show a $1 million surplus next year. And then the underlying surplus will stay in the black for the next few years. Our level, I'll speak to the debt that was raised earlier in the questioning. Our level of debt is beyond that of similar councils. It rose significantly in the 1920 year when council borrowed to build this new offices. The timing of this investment has been good, with interest rates at historical lows. Our loans will have reduced by 9% this year and by 28% by the year 2022 to 23 from the 1920 peak. It should also be noted that council does not forecast any increase in borrowings for this year. So I would say on those rates that the debt amount is reducing well. But Golden Plains has been playing catch up when it comes to infrastructure. There's no doubt the Shire needs capital works. This building is a large investment, about $9 million. The Bannockburn Heart was a large expense with stage 2 yet to come. They're both justifiable projects, but we need to reduce our debt levels in the future to remain sustainable. The balance sheet indicates rising debt in 24-25, but as explained by Director O'Sullivan, it's the methodology that the officers have used in this projection that should be considered. The potential for borrowing is written into the forecast to offset a possible reduction of capital grants. The officers have sensibly been conservative in the expectations of the grant money that far in advance. The borrowings forecast for that period would enable works to continue in the Shire at a similar rate to what they are today. Of course, it is likely that capital grants will continue at current levels and the increased borrowings won't be necessary. In a scenario where these grants were reduced, council would have two options: borrow to maintain existing works levels, or don't borrow and reduce the projects that are delivered to the community. I know that as a new councillor, I would not like to be at the end of the 4-year term and have had an increase in debt levels. That's not the legacy I want to leave. No budget's perfect, but having gone through this process, I think this group is better equipped to deliver next year's budget. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Whitfield. Councillor Cunningham, would you like to speak?
Yeah, thank you. Yes, very well spoken, Councillor Whitfield. In this budget, there's been acknowledgement regarding the requirements of additional funding being required in areas of increased funding, resealing of roads, improvement of local roads and curb and channel projects. I'd also like to acknowledge that this budget there is continued investment that will deliver much needed upgrades in several community and recreational facilities. During the election campaign, there are many items, concerns raised by the community in this budget. I believe there is funding available to allow council to start addressing some of these concerns, as was mentioned by Councillor Whitfield, and also regarding the new bore, Common Road, also the $25,000 that has been to clear the fire access tracks. So there is a lot of positives from this first budget as new councillors. However, I also do agree that going forward as an elected group of councillors, we need to address the serious and growing issue of asset management that the council has, and also start work and focus on implementing ways to start reducing the outstanding loans and debts and showing a positive results in this area and remaining a viable Shire. And I echo Councillor Whitfield's words, at the end of our term, it would be good to leave a lesser debt to the incoming council group than we have at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. Is there any discussion regarding the amendment? Anyone would like to speak for or against? Councillor Rowe?
The budget?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, look, listen, a fair bit of work's gone into this budget, as we all know. I've just pulled a few things out that that I'm passionate about here. The Rokewood Landfill Rehabilitation works are planned to commence in 21-22. Also, the review of works required will be completed on the Teesdale landfill site in 21-22. Also nice to see the start of the road soil dumps being removed in this budget year. Continue to offering financial assistance to customers and setting aside 100k in the 21-22 budget, with 50k to continue the COVID-19 financial hardship policy and 50k towards a COVID-19 recovery program. Investing in local roads and bridges. It's good to see the investment here for the resealing of local roads, improvement to local roads, gravel resheeting of local roads. The overall spend is up on last year. I think we allocated 250k for curb and channel projects, and I hope it's not in an area where a developer didn't contribute. Another new bridge at Rokewood Junction to the value of 650k. Intersection upgrades at Garibaldi, 250k. Intersection upgrade at Baringa, the same 250,000. New guardrails on bridges across the Shire, value of 200,000. Investing in local communities and delivering of upgrades to the sport and rec facilities. There's the Ross Creek Play upgrade, the Enfield Playground upgrade, Lethbridge Cricket Net upgrade, and the Bannockburn Skate Park upgrade. It's good to see some new initiatives in the budget for future design work for roads, bridges, drainage, building and sport and rec works. Also nice to see the 130k for the roadside slashing of the gravel roads, 25k to clear fire access tracks, and the 80,000 for common road swale drain upgrades in Inverleigh, and also the upgrade to the bore at Cambrian Hill. There's just one thing I'm concerned about, and that's the 344,000 increase in the workers' compensation and public liability. It's up over 90% on the previous period. In my book, insurance is only going to increase over the coming years, but you need to have it. It's compulsory. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rowe. Councillor Gamble, you're next to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm obviously new to the process and the learning about budgeting at this level of organisation. Highlights for me include the and one of the reasons I believe the expenses are up and we've incurred extra debt levels is because the obvious significant modernisation and upgrade of buildings and operations, and it's possible to argue that was put off a fair while in the past, and it's been we've caught up with it in more recent times. One example is that in the budget is the investment in software and computer systems. Significant investment, but it is anticipated that that will pay off in the future and provide benefits pretty well immediately once it's instigated to staff and ratepayers as well in streamlining services, etc. Another highlight for me is an extra 75,000 for environmental initiatives, and I also support the ones previously mentioned. Nevertheless, I do have concerns over the budget such that I suggested and was supported in the alternative motion, number 6, that we commit to a review of the rating strategy going forward so that we're sort of going back to basics and learning about where and how that money is coming from in the first place, and the best way to do that as how we see it with different values and new council. I'd also like to foreshadow that decisions I'll be making in the future will probably be more through the lens of climate emergency in terms of how is this going to help us in our future, and what as an overriding important thing for our security and future prosperity is increasing the resilience of the community and doing our bit to help the world effort to get emissions under control and to bring down dangerous carbon levels. So there are parts of, I'd be critical of some aspects of infrastructure investment, and also even things like some of the sports facilities, where I feel that that it's perhaps a bit out of. So some of the facilities we've put money into would be worthy of Geelong Grammar, and I don't think that that's given these build-up of other issues and possible crisis that we sooner or later will have to deal with, then I think that that's a priority I'll be looking at in terms of that lens of looking at it in terms of climate emergency. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gamble. Is there any other councillors? Councillor Getson?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I've noted that some of these smaller grants, which go to the smaller country towns and that, it may not be a lot of money, but it means a lot of money to those little country towns that have gone back with COVID, not being able to raise events and whatever. The streetscape, which is going to happen up the north, Smilesdale, Scarsdale and Linton, that's, I think, is going to be a fabulous incentive for the people in that area and get them back on track. And also any other, especially rounds I meant to mention earlier too about Napoleon's there, where they congratulated the Shire for the upkeep and whatever on our sporting grounds. And that includes like around Linton, I know, I guess in Inverleigh and Bannockburn and whatever. So it's money well spent, and I think we're heading in the right direction. Thank you.
Sharkey.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I'll also be supporting this budget, and it sounds like most councillors are here tonight are all supporting it. I think in all my time on council in the few years following the budget process, it's probably our first budget that has been fully supported and endorsed by all councillors, which is an interesting point to note. Probably listening to the words of councillors around me, Councillor Whitfield's comment there, no budget is perfect, is great wording to use, because we're collecting $50 million or close to $50 million here, and I think there's always parts of the budget you can scrutinise and not be happy with. There's some great positives in this budget, and also on that there's some difficult pills to swallow for some of the community members. I'd like to acknowledge the process. No sooner have we finished this process and we'll start the next one. It is a long process, and I think on one of the first meetings we had with new councillors, I did raise the issue that, just hold on to your seats. This process is just going to go so fast, and hopefully it is a process where councillors have learnt a lot. On a personal note, given the conversations around last year's budget and the election process we did go through, I did personally anticipate and expect more scrutiny and analysing of the budget behind the scenes by us as a collective sum. When we get to the stage of putting this document for public consultation, I'm not saying it's almost too late. We've made a small amendment here tonight, which is it is tokenistic. It's a nice amendment. It does acknowledge some of the concerns, but really, as a collective group, and I know I did raise very early in the piece that the garbage charge will be one of those areas that the whole budget will come down to the rubbish charge. It is a significant rise, and I think we need to be fair and honest with our ratepayers. The rubbish charge is going to be a charge largely outside of our control. It's going to be a charge that is going to be increasing year after year. Some of the comments of Councillor Gamble there with regards to the environment, that's some of the repercussions, the results of some of those to do the right thing for the environment, creating a fourth bin and all that. It unfortunately is going to come at a cost to our ratepayers. And I think that whereas, as some been really good comments here tonight, we need to, we need to over the next year have some really tough conversations. We may very well this may very well come at the cost of some sparkling new items for our communities, or the consolidation of assets, or even the sale of assets. And I'm not saying that that should be the outcome, but I think we as a collective sum of councillors need to have those tough conversations. And as a result of those tough conversations, there's a positive effect for our community and in terms of a financial sum, and we need to start directing some of those positive dividends or those returns for our ratepayers. And it's our role as councillors, as elected councillors, to foresee issues and not wholly and solely wait to the 11th hour and just listen to whilst it's important to get the feedback and the community consultation, it is our role to foresee some of these and have some tough conversations. With regards to the rubbish charge, as I said, we need to be upfront and clear with the community that this is going to be a rising cost. I firmly believe that stronger advocacy is needed within both our council but across the sector in Victoria. For all the ratepayers that are concerned with the escalating rubbish charge, I urge you not only to get in touch with us, but to also raise that as a state government election campaign and express your frustration with the state government. It's estimated in this year's budget that we as ratepayers will contribute approximately $530,000 towards the Sustainability Fund. We have been contributing towards this fund year after year. Hundreds of thousands of Golden Plains money per year goes into a fund of money held by the state government. Last year it was $330,000, the year before it was $370,000, right back to its creation in 2005. So fair to say that we collectively as Golden Plains residents have contributed $3, $4, $5 million into a fund of money that's been held by the state government, which has grown now into a $500 million bucket of money. $500 million, 10 times bigger than this budget in itself, is a fund. In my personal opinion, it's this fund of money that should be paying for the capping of tips and roadside stockpiles and items like that, and not just be solely and wholly relying on our residents year after year. Now, having said all of that, there's some absolutely positive notes that have been really well covered here tonight. This is the biggest budget Golden Plains has ever delivered, and it provides for over 70 services right across the Shire. And that's a number that it still astonishes me as a councillor for 5 years that we deliver 70 different services. So that fund of money helps to provide all of those services right across the Shire. We've got $2.2 million for active ageing and inclusion, $508,000 for library services in the Shire, $342,000 for youth services in the Shire. So I'm extremely proud to, also extremely proud to see point number 3 there, that we approve the continuing hardship policy. That's a hardship policy that was put into effect last year. We've split that fund now to also concentrate on COVID recovery and help to hopefully put together some programs there. Taking note of Councillor Gamble's comment around the commitment to the review of the rating strategy, I think it'll be a great process to go through that again, and for new councillors to get an understanding and appreciation of the rating strategy. It is worth noting that last year's budget and rates, that COVID hardship policy delivered assistance that's in our whole Shire out of 11,000 ratepayers, and off the top of my head, and I might stand corrected, but it was around 150 people who were given assistance through that hardship policy. So that's the number of ratepayers in our Shire that are having a problem with the rating strategy. But it is good to see that rating strategy come forward this year for another conversation. I know myself, my personal rates will be going up 9.1% this year, which is a considerable jump in rates, and it's worth having another review of the rating process and helping ease the burden and share the burden, because there'll be many ratepayers who see the rates going down this year. So all round, Madam Mayor, very happy to wholeheartedly support the budget. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Sharkey. Councillor Whitfield, would you like to close the debate?
Oh, very briefly, Madam Mayor, I'd like to thank all the other councillors for their contribution on this matter. I will pick up on something Councillor Sharkey said, and the $6 reduction. I know this councillor group fought hard and long to find any kind of reduction, so I just wouldn't call it tokenistic, that's all. Yeah, that's all. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Good. I will now put it to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 7.7, Community Satisfaction Survey 2021, the report findings. Thank you, Director Lectic.
Madam Mayor, each year Local Government Victoria coordinates a statewide local government community satisfaction survey. JWS Research are engaged to conduct the survey on behalf of participating councils, including Golden Plains. The survey was conducted via telephone interview with 400 Golden Plains residents and was undertaken in early 2021. The survey is designed to provide insights into the community views on both importance and performance of some of council's services and infrastructure, and is comparable to both previous years against the average like councils, and for us that's a large rural council group, and can also be compared against the Victorian statewide average. The 2021 results indicate that the community perceptions of council performance have improved marginally from 2020, with positive movement in index scores results recorded for overall performance, lobbying on behalf of community, decisions made in the interests of community, and sealed local roads improving the most by 3 index points. Minor negative movement was recorded in the index result scores for consultation and engagement and customer service. The full report, which is attached to this report, detail the key findings and recommendation on areas for improvement for council, and the recommendation is that council receive and note the 2021 Community Satisfaction Survey reports for Golden Plains Shire. Thank you.
Director, is there any questions, councillors? No? Looks like they've all read the report. Thank you. We have a motion. Do I have a mover? Councillor Cunningham. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Whitfield. Councillor Cunningham, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I personally believe that the Community Satisfaction Survey is a very important document and process that allows council to receive totally independent sourced feedback and insights from our community. Once again, the survey results for our council overall performance score rates significantly lower than the Victorian statewide average. However, there are some positive increases in some areas of the survey results. However, once again, the results identify key performance areas and individual service areas that require attention and action. Hopefully some of these areas identified by the community via the survey will be able to begin to be addressed by this year's budget and by future decisions of this current council group. I will be supporting council officers' recommendation to receive the survey results and report. Thank you.
Councillor Whitfield, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Yes, this survey has provided a couple of results that would marry with what I'm hearing from the community, and some that don't. Customer service is our highest scorer in this survey, but I know that councillors are constantly hearing there's a lag between service requests and communication to the inquirer. Also, roads are something we hear about from residents on a regular basis, and that shows in the survey. I see community consultation score has dropped from 49 to 47. Given that this council has been out in the community with direct engagement strategies such as the Coffee with a Councillor sessions and the adoption of the community engagement policy, I can only assume that as this survey was conducted between February 15th and March 23rd, that it's more a reflection of the 2020 year rather than the 2021 year. I'm confident that score will rise in the next survey. Unfortunately, both roads, sealed and unsealed, are our lowest scoring area. I know there is focus to improve this though through the 21-25 road management plan that was endorsed for community consultation at the last council meeting, particularly through improved response times and designated intervention levels. A result which I believe should be higher is lobbying. There are various ways to lobby, but without a doubt the staff here are excellent at sourcing funding through grant opportunities to enable all kinds of community programs and capital works. And I hope through continued communication the residents come to see that. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Whitfield. Is there any other councillors who'd like to speak for the motion? Councillor Gamble.
Mayor, during the briefing meeting, we were addressed by the Mark Zucker with the JWS Research, who I asked him particularly if there was any extenuating circumstances such as our lopsided demography with Bannockburn being so far southeast of the rest of the Shire, but he disagreed with that and said there were other shires that are quite comparable where we didn't have the lower results that we do. Because like Councillor Cunningham said, it's an extremely important survey, this, and it should be very useful for us going forward. The facts are, it seems that our citizens are less happy or satisfied with our council's performance than others. It's disappointing. We, quote, rate significantly lower, down a long way from the state average. I think it's a valuable feedback to us councillors of perceptions in the community, and like Councillor Whitfield said, it is somewhat confounding because there has been extra money, resources and focus has been put into like road maintenance, and there's a strategy for maintaining there's a current new strategy for maintaining even the worst gravel roads where they can apply for a second grade, etc. That's on the website for people listening. There's consultation engagement has also gone down, whereas we've been out there and quite proactive right from from November last year. So that's somewhat confounding. So is it an issue of communication? Well, personally, I think the communications team is doing an excellent job of promoting what's going on and the good things that are happening in the Shire. So is it a question of entrenched perception? And that just takes time to turn around. And also the question of the election too, where we had, it was quite a fraught election campaign, which tended to polarise people in various ways. But so it needs further reflection and thought, and we should strive to inform people and communicate about all the good things that are happening, be responsible council, and strive to improve and turn around our community perception.
Thank you, Councillor Gamble. Well said. Is there anyone else? Councillor Sharkey?
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I am acknowledging both Councillor Cunningham and Councillor Gamble's comments regarding how this is an important document. I must admit that I have frustration with this survey. And Councillor Whitfield has raised a couple of issues in there that, whilst we are, the timing of when this goes out plays a huge role in these numbers, whether it goes out on a good week or a bad week, or there might be a bad news story the very week before it goes out and has an effect on the scoring. No doubt there is councils across Victoria that will probably spend a large percent of the budget in the weeks before this survey goes out. Interesting to note, there's around 2,500 phone calls that are made to get those 400 people. So I can only assume by those over 2,000 people that either don't pick up the phone call or have got more important things to do with the time than enter the survey. It is I don't know, maybe it's just where I am as a council. I do get a little bit frustrated with this survey each year. I have seen council made huge inroads and made some changes, as Councillor Gamble and Councillor Whitfield said, that we've made some changes there, and then you don't see the change. Based on the feedback that I've got through people through the election, through this year, I would have expected customer service to have dropped quite considerably. It's only dropped a point or two, but I know, based on the feedback, that we need to do more work there, irregardless of this survey. So it is a document that I struggle with. I know the state government put that on top of us and say, look here, put local governments under scrutiny. I wish there were some of these surveys on the state government. This comes at a cost of $25,000 to our ratepayers. I personally think $25,000 could be so much better spent than having an independent crowd ring up and get the opinion of 400 residents. And as Councillor Gamble said, we've just gone through election campaign. We've got the collective sum of 7 people here. We know what the feeling of the Shire is. It would be nice to see some of these figures better, but each year I cross my fingers and hope the figures change and get better. Councillor Whitfield acknowledged lobbying. That's an area that is clear and evident in the budget that we've kicking goals. We should be at 80 and 90 points on that. We're not. I question how. We're in a peri-urban council. People are going to be disgruntled moving from shires. It's just, I don't know. It's a survey that I get frustrated with and take with a grain of salt. But it does help guide a few things. But I do become more frustrated with it each year. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak for or against? If not, Councillor Cunningham, would you like to sum up?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Not really much else to add there, but just support the comments of councillors that did speak, especially Councillor Sharkey. I know we've had discussions on the survey in the past. It is interesting. I think there's definitely a demographic of people that do take interest in the council and what councils do, and there's probably a large percentage of the community that don't, unless something happens that they're involved in. And I also echo Councillor Gamble's comments about the amount of information that goes out, the Gazette and on the website. So all the information's there. So I think if we continue on the track that we are with the coffee with the councillors and the engagement we're doing, hopefully that we can start to get some more positive results. But I can understand Councillor Sharkey's frustrations, and there are some things when you look at it, as Councillor Whitfield, it doesn't quite add up. So there's probably definitely a bit of work, but at least we've taken it on board, and as a group we'll work towards positive outcomes. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. I'll now put it to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 7.8, the Vega report on local roads. Thank you, Mr. Josipovic.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In March of 2021, the Victorian Auditor-General's Office released a report maintaining local roads. Excuse me. In addition to this report, Vega also compared each council's own road maintenance costs to other Victorian councils. Road maintenance activities ensure roads are safe and functional, which is a fairly obvious statement. Interestingly, in Victoria, councils manage 87% of the state's road network. Local roads typically represent approximately 10% of council expenditure, therefore councils need to maintain them in a financially sustainable way. Vega audited 5 councils and conducted a sector-wide questionnaire, and using this information they concluded that councils cannot determine whether they are achieving value for money when maintaining their road network. Some of the key findings from the Roads Data Summary Report include, I'll list off a few, but there's more in your summary report as well as the full reports that are attached. Vega suggests, that's the Victorian Auditor-General, suggests that this council underspends by 41.1% on its total network cost. Total network cost is a calculation used by the Victorian Local Government Grants Commission and takes into consideration the road network size, the traffic volume and the cost modifiers which pick up on local conditions such as availability of material, climate conditions, etc. The gap in underspending ranges from 18 to 100% for councils in our cohort, and comparatively we sit 8th. Therefore there are 11 councils in our cohort that have a bigger funding gap. Golden Plains Shire spends, according to the report by Vega, 62% of total roads maintenance expenditure reactively, where the average for similar councils is 33%, and the sector average is 25%. I should make comment, and it's not included in the report, and I apologise for that, but the figures that the Victorian Auditor General used were based on financial figures from 16-17, 17-18 and 18-19. We introduced our unsealed road charter in 1920, and that was the first year we started implementing that at least one grade per year, which would be deemed a planned activity, and therefore that would swing those numbers around a bit. 94% of all sealed roads at Golden Plains Shire use a single spray. This is a significantly higher percentage for the surface type than other councils in our cohort. So a single spray is probably the cheapest seal that you could use. There are other more expensive seals that could be used, but they are longer lasting as well. That said, 96% of our roads are classed as low traffic volume roads, which is one of the highest percentages reported for low traffic volume roads for councils in our cohort. Our resealing rate is on par with most other councils in our area at 3.53%, meaning that 3.53% of our sealed road network gets a fresh seal every year, which would mean it takes about 28 years to reseal every road in the Shire or thereabouts. Golden Plains Shire spends less on sealed road reconstruction costs than other councils, both within our cohort and on average, and that has been mentioned a couple of times tonight. So overall, Vega provided 10 recommendations to all Victorian councils grouped into 3 broad areas of improvement, being maintenance planning, achieving value for money and road management plan compliance. A summary of Vega's recommendations, including how Golden Plains Shire is responding to these recommendations, shown in Appendix 1 of your report. It is worth noting that the recent introduction of Council's asset management system provides the platform required for an integrated approach to road maintenance and addresses a large number of the recommendations that the Auditor General has made. The recommendation before you tonight is that Council note the 2 reports from Victorian Auditor General's Office.
Thank you, Mr Josipovic. Is there any questions, councillors? Councillor Whitfield.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Through you, Director Josipovic, I was reading the recommendations and responses in the report, and 2 caught my eye because I didn't believe they were adequately addressed. The first one being set unit rates for reactive maintenance to determine the adequacy of planned maintenance in reducing reactive maintenance costs and to be able to compare different maintenance activities. Are you able to give us a better response than what's in the report? Thanks.
Well, yeah, in the report we're saying we're not capturing that data at the moment, and I take on board your comments and accept those. Aesthetic, which is our new asset management system, does have the capacity to store those unit rates for both planned and reactive maintenance activities. Obviously, we will aspire to track those levels in the future, but we also need to understand what level of resourcing will be required to keep that, collect that information, store that information, analyse that information. Our first step for asset implementation is to focus on populating our asset register and aligning our financial reporting, with some of those planned versus reactive activities. Does that answer your question?
And sorry, I did think I forgot the second recommendation, which was performance measures in the road management plan.
Yeah, so again, keeping in mind that I guess our new asset management system aesthetic's only been around for 12, 18 months, I think tops, and our first priority was to load up our building asset stock into the system. But aesthetic does have the capability to track response times. At present, we tend to, a lot of our stuff is paper based. So, we'll send an email to the crew to say, can you go and repair road X? And then they'll go and repair road X, and that's it. there isn't a closing of the loop type process. So we recognise that that's a system issue for us, and ASETIC has the capability to issue a work order that comes on a mobile device that then can be, the operator can take a photo of the repair, press complete, all that, and it'll track all that time in terms of response time, completion rates, all those sorts of things. So certainly something that looking forward we will be looking to implement and get much better data from.
Any other, Councillor Getson?
Yes, Councillor Josovich, the state's 96% of our roads are classified low traffic volume. Is that on account with just motor cars and utilities type of thing?
I couldn't tell you what the exact criterion is, but it's based on what the Victoria Auditor General's office used as determining what the traffic volume, what they consider high, medium and low. It's purely based on a vehicle count, including heavy and light vehicles.
What I'm probably getting at there is, if they're going by motor vehicles like cars, I know in the northern end of the Shire and probably out the west, out here towards the Werneth end, there's a lot of semi-trailers using the roads. So they are creating a greater havoc to our roads than what the cars are. And I'm just wondering whether that 96% is classed on cars or overall all vehicles.
Based on an overall traffic movement and doesn't give any consideration to what type of vehicle. But your point is absolutely valid.
Any other questions, councillors? If there's no other questions, we have a
sorry,
sorry, Councillor
just
Gamble.
one. About the intervention levels, Director Josipovic. It says in the report that how the intervention levels can be set by varying councils, individual councils. How does our intervention level compare with other councils?
I think by and large our intervention levels with rural councils would be quite similar, keeping in mind that this council has a road network that we look after of over 1,700 kilometres. So, it becomes an argument of resources versus, the road network you have to look after. Certainly I would argue, and having worked in both urban and rural councils, I would argue that urban councils would have a much lower tolerance for intervention levels, but they also have a much smaller road network with a much higher capacity to maintain that road. But typically the rural councils will be all pretty similar.
Yeah. Councillors? None? Okay, we have a recommendation in front of us. Do we have a mover? Anyone would like to move? Councillor Whitfield. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Cunningham. Councillor Whitfield, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. I'll start with the good point raised in this report, and that is that 98.93% of council roads are in better condition than intervention levels, and this is actually well above the average for all councils. The findings in this report, they sort of demonstrate what we already know. The expenditure on road maintenance falls well below the amount required to keep them in tip-top shape. In fact, 41% below. That is a total network spend of 6.6 mil compared to the 11.3 mil required. But council currently mitigates this gap by providing maintenance at costs lower than other councils in our cohort. An example being the reseal rates per square metre for our Shire are $3.85 compared to $5.71 for similar councils. The reconstruction costs are also lower, with ours being $42.67 per square metre compared to $61.01. Council also activates maintenance through predominantly reactive actions when other councils use a majority planned approach. This strategy, of course, has a direct link with lower community satisfaction ratings, because council is relying on the people to be the eyes and the ears for the condition of our roads. Naturally, a resident would only register an issue when they see nothing has been done about it for some time. So it's understandable that there would be frustration in the community when they are the ones reporting the issues. It's important to note, though, that with budget constraints that this council faces, a rapid improvement to our roads should not be expected, but gradual improvements can be. Overall, this report has some beneficial data that council can use to improve our systems and outcomes, and I note the digitising and improved processes that Director Josipovic has mentioned. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Whitfield. Councillor Cunningham, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, as Councillor Whitfield has stated, findings in the report confirm what we already know, but I believe going forward we will be introducing some strategies and measurements or measures to address some of these concerns. Once again, as Councillor Whitfield has pointed out, taking into account the budget restraints that as a council we have to work within. But I think, yeah, there are some positives there. Thank you.
Is there anyone who'd like to speak against the motion? Anyone who'd like to speak for the motion? If not, Councillor Whitfield, if you'd like to sum up.
Not necessary, thanks.
No worries. All right, I'll put the vote. All those in favour? Those against? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 7.9, Enforcement Policy Adoption. Thank you, Mr Josipovic.
Madam Mayor. This policy defines council's assurance to a shared responsibility within the community in achieving compliance with applicable laws and acts enforced by council. The policy provides a framework upon which council officers will base their enforcement decisions and actions, and will provide a consistent approach in the use of community awareness, education and enforcement actions by officers to achieve compliance outcomes. Council receives over 1,000 enforcement-related inquiries each year. Some of these inquiries result in a simple phone call only, while others proceed to investigations where the result is determined at either Vcat or the Magistrates Court. The enforcement policy details to the community what to expect when an incident has been reported, and will also explain what the alleged offender is to expect when communicating with council. The policy gives examples of when a certain action is appropriate, and a matrix that council officers can follow to prioritise the response. The policy and subsequent internal procedure not only informs the community but assists officers in guiding them through the enforcement process. In summary, the policy provides a framework for addressing compliance matters efficiently with due regard to the seriousness of the matter and available resources. The policy is based on the principles of proportionality, consistency, fairness and transparency, and provides internal direction regarding enforcement. It is recommended that council adopt the policy.
Is there any questions, councillors? No questions. I'll then ask for a mover. Councillor Getson. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Cunningham. Councillor Getson, would you like to speak?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I actually get a little bit involved with the compliance officers up north with livestock on the road. And so when I get phone calls, I don't know why I don't get them, but they're generally about 6 o'clock in the morning, so that's why that is. I think they do a great job. They've got a hard job to do. I know they are, when there's an animal injured or beyond recovery, they do not have a firearm or anything to destroy that animal. Maybe at some stage they should look at that they be supplied with something like that to be able to put that animal out of its misery. Quite often they'll have to call on a police officer. They're not available, or they can call on a licensed shooter to shoot. But I think that could be looked at some stage, and I'm quite happy to support that. I think they do a wonderful job. The people that they face, they go out to a job, they don't know what they're going to face, and most people are irate naturally when they get something a little bit more that the person shouldn't be doing. So they go there with their eyes and arms and everything open, so I think they do a wonderful job. Thank you.
Councillor Getson. Councillor Cunningham.
Madam Mayor. Firstly, as councillors, we acknowledge the work of the council officers that are involved in providing this document for consideration by council. As noted in the report, this proposed enforcement policy will provide the insurance the community that there is an applicable, consistent framework that provides a way to achieve compliance with applicable laws and acts within our community, but also importantly it gives our council officers the guidelines to be able to enforce applicable compliance in local laws. Thank you.
Is there anyone who'd like to speak against the motion? Anyone who'd like to speak for the motion? Councillor Gamble.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to mention that I've got confidence in the officer's strategic and professional approach as evidenced in the development of this policy, and also we were subject to a much more extensive confidential discussions in our briefing meeting. So I'd like to credit that officer, Matthew Sims, and also our enforcement officers too, to back up what Councillor Getson was saying. As you can appreciate, it would be a very challenging job at times, and we're grateful they are working to enforce community expectations, standards, ensure our Shire is a decent place to live for everyone, or the great majority, and this policy is a good development of a strategy to ensure that they behave in a professional and comprehensive way when there's issues. Thank you.
Councillor Gamble. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak against the motion? For the motion? If not, I'll ask Councillor Getson, would you like to sum up?
No, just endorse the words. Thanks for Councillor Cunningham and Councillor Gamble as well. And look, I just think it's just a great one to do, so I'm quite happy with that. Thank you.
I'll now put it to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? Carried. Item 7.10, the annual adoption of the procurement policy. Thank you, Director O'Sullivan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillors conducted a review of the procurement policy in the previously on an annual basis, as this policy is central to the day-to-day operations of purchasing goods and services in a fair and transparent manner, and it is important to ensure it reflects current processes and meets legislative requirements. Enhancements to the procurement policy include aligning with our regional council policies, other regional council policies, incorporating new requirements outlined in the Local Government Act 2020, and providing more clarity by expanding guidance and requirements throughout the policy. It's important to note that the new Local Government Act 2020 introduced a number of new requirements to be incorporated by the 1st of July 2021. Council already had a number of these included in its current procurement policy, such as including a procurement threshold indicating when a tender is required, and these amendments have already been included within the policy. I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Any questions, councillors? If there's no questions, I'll ask for a mover to the recommendation. Councillor Cunningham, Councillor Whitfield. Would you like to speak, Councillor Cunningham?
Madam Mayor, just once again on behalf of the councillor group, sounds like a bit of a broken record tonight, but we do acknowledge the work done on presenting these reports and policies to the council for consideration. I've read through it. Once again, it's a very well prepared document, as I say, and I'm happy to support the recommendation of council officers for the councillors to approve the updated procurement policy. Thank you.
Want to speak?
Just briefly, thanks, Madam Mayor. I did have a number of questions on this during the week, but I thank Director O'Sullivan for clarifying them for me. I certainly learnt some new terminology in a procurement policy. I do like clause 27, where the training will be provided for officers to ensure continuous improvement and comprehension of the policy and the roles within it. It's the type of policy that's integral to the operation of the organisation, so all for it. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Whitfield. Is there anyone who'd like to speak against the motion? Anyone like to speak for the motion? If not, Councillor Cunningham, would you like to say?
Nothing else to add there. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
All right, no worries. Thank you. I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 7.11, Mayor and Councillor Allowance. Thank you, Director O'Sullivan.
Madam Mayor. So mayors and councillors are entitled to receive an allowance while performing their duties as an elected official. It's worth noting that on the 23rd of December 2019, the Minister of the Local Government advised Golden Plains Shire that Golden Plains Shire Council had been approved to progress from the allowance category 1, which was the lowest level, to category 2, which is the mid-level, which was justified due to the increase in the number of residents in the Shire district and the increase in council's recurrent revenue numbers. As a result, the upper limit of allowances that may now be paid to the Mayor and councillors in category 2, which is also subject to an additional amount in relation to superannuation, was a Mayor allowance up to $81,203 and council allowances up to $26,244. Following public consultation between the 27th of April and 25th of May, we received 5 submissions. 4 submissions were not supportive, while the one was a proposed increase suggesting 6% over 4 years, 1.5% per annum. Taking into account the 5 public submissions and the letter from the Minister approving the Council's progression to Category 2, it's recommended Council approve the Mayor allowance to move to $65,998 and Council allowance to $23,048. Thank you.
Ms Sullivan, is there any questions? Any questions for the Director? No? If not, yes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to actually move an alternative recommendation, if I may, and that would be looking at increasing the allowances for the Mayor allowance 1.5% and Councillors 5%. So my motion would be that Council receive and note submissions provided during the public consultation period, adopted the mayoral allowance of $63,798.55 and the council allowances of $22,000.14. Allowances are also subject to the additional amount to cover the superannuation guarantee.
We have a seconder. Councillor Whitfield. Councillor Cunningham, would you like to speak to the
Thank you,
motion?
Madam Mayor.
Alternative.
Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge and fully appreciate the points. Well, there's been lots of discussion by councillors on this, and I've got a lot of notes here, but I probably won't refer to them now. It is difficult because it would be easier if there was a person or a department in place that reviewed and made these decisions on behalf of councillors. It's very hard to do. I suppose look at your own personal positions. I know most councillors did heading up to the election. There was a lot of information given to us, so we knew what we were coming into with eyes opened. However, going forward, I've seen the work that that the new councillors have done, and also the existing councillors in Councillors Rowe and Sharkey and yourself have done. We actually, we're having more meetings, which is up to us to do, but we believe by attending these meetings, it's going to increase our knowledge and a better outcome. So there's more meetings throughout the year when we do our strategic planning meetings, and also with the engaged consultation with the communities. So there is a lot of extra work being put in that needs to be done, I think, to address it's a growing Shire of a bigger population. And I think also it's needs to be taken on each councillor's merits, I suppose. I know in my position, I'm still working full time, so I'm accessing my annual leave days to attend meetings, which once again I knew that I had to do. But there are other councillors, I suppose, that if they're self-employed, don't have that option to do that. I believe that. And I also fully take on the community expectations and the feedback that I've had over the past 2 weeks or the past month from many of the residents of the Shire and the majority of those people that supported me at the last council election. So I believe, and I'm comfortable that I think the community would be comfortable in understanding that I think what I'm putting forward for the increase in the mayor allowance and the council's allowance, I think it's a fair. I think it sort of meets halfway between nothing and 10%. I also notice, and I think Councillor Whitfield might speak, that we have been, our council has been moved up into Tier 2 of the councillors, and a lot of those council groups are already up at the top of the maximum allowance that can be claimed, where even with this slight increase, 5% might sound a lot, but which is $1,000 is a lot of money, but that's reality. Is all the increases roughly would be for the councillor. So I think I think that the community would be comfortable with that increase. Thank you.
Cunningham. Councillor Whitfield, would you like to speak?
Yes, thanks, Madam Mayor. I note Councillor Cunningham's comment about the community's position. But I think there are strong reasons for seeking this increase. Parity with similar councils. When benchmarked against our cohort, we are well behind other councils in the Tier 2 level. Moyne, Moorabool, Surf Coast, Warrnambool City and Horsham City are all at the top of the range. Unfortunately, with this amendment, my maths has changed in my notes, but yeah, I think it'll be, we would be approximately $4,500 less than those in that cohort in the councillor position, and more than $16,000 for the mayoral position, less than what our cohort is receiving. It also, by increasing the councillor and mayoral allowances, you will attract more diverse candidates. Councillor Cunningham touched on the increased workload. The Shire is growing rapidly, and that equates to councillors doing more. The Minister for Local Government advised Golden Plains Shire that it had been approved to progress from Category 1 to Category 2. This was justified due to the increase in numbers of residents in the Shire and the increase in Council's current revenue numbers. This is a medium request that Council is putting forward. Looking at the recent history of councillor allowances, since 2016-17 year, the councillor allowance weekly pay has increased by $4.68 from what it was that 5 years ago. I cannot think of any other workplace where that has happened. If this small increase is not supported, it is also possible that for the next few years, until a minister makes a decision, it could remain the same. It's not an easy decision by any means for us councillors to increase our position. It would never be a popular decision with the community. But looking from the outside in, it would be hard to see the justification. Some people have commented to me that we shouldn't be seeking a rise until they hear actually what allowance we are on. Until a minister sets the allowances under the Local Government Act 89, Section 74, Paragraph 1, is a requirement for councils to review the allowances within 6 months of the election. We must decide now what will attract the best councillors of tomorrow. Compared to the last term, councillors are getting out into the community more than ever. With the Coffee for Councillors session, the Expressions of Interest program, where committees invite councillors to their meetings, the fortnightly strategic meetings that are a new initiative, the briefing days that require councillors to take time off work, the travelling required for resident inquiries is increasing with the increased resident numbers. Returning councillors have commented to me that this year it has been an increased workload. There is, for councillors, the increased sort does not even come close to parity. All it does is perhaps send a message to the community that we should be compensated for the extra efforts put in and the growth in the Shire and the lift to level 2 or tier 2. I believe this amount is a very conservative request. The strong reasons for it: parity, or trying to reach parity with other councils, increased workload, and attracting the best councillors of tomorrow. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Whitfield. Is there any councillors who'd like to speak? Thank you, Councillor
Madam Mayor. When I got into council, I realised that there was a lot of time involved and a lot of travelling involved, being in the north and the office down here at Bannockburn. I've gone from a full-time position, working day shift, to a casual position and mainly working night shift, to able to attend council meetings. And I think I did last month about 1,373 kilometres, 1,000 odd kilometres around, and that's there's some I've missed on too, of course. So I enjoy doing it. There's not a day I'll miss if I can do it. I'll go without sleep to get out to visit some ratepayers around the traps or whatever, or some functions. So it's a well worth organisation to be in. It's a great Shire to be in. And I think the little bit of justification, it's only a small bit of money, but I think it's well worth it. And I think the ratepayers would agree, because we are getting out there and showing ourselves in the Shire. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gitsum. Is there any other councillor who would like to have a bit of discussion? Councillor Gamble?
I'd just like to reinforce what Councillor Whitfield said and Councillor Cunningham. I think that it is a rise, but it's increase in allowance or an honorarium. It's not really like a wage. We're well within the guidelines of what's recommended by the overall authority on the matter, and given that we're an unsubdivided council, we're required to travel and represent all the council, and that does take up a lot of extra time, particularly for Ian, and we're all newer councillors and trying to do our best to represent the broader community. So I support Councillor Whitfield also with the position that it should be a job that people on a low medium wage could take on and go half time or whatever, and not sacrifice their livelihood. So I think just having that little bit extra allows it to be more doable for a lot more people in the future, for future candidates as well. Not just, I'm thinking about the position as a type of candidates and sustainability of it for people. Thank you.
Councillor Gamble. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak? Councillor Rowe?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Prior to becoming a councillor, I was aware of the remuneration for the Mayor's councillors of the Golden Plains Shire. At the moment, I'm very much aware of what is happening in the COVID world, and especially with the new strain, the Delta version. The number of residents and ratepayers and businesses of the Shire who have been affected by this, I feel for. Furthermore, with the rise in land values and housing values in this Shire at the moment, some people will be struggling to pay their rates, especially the aged and retirees. For those reasons, I am against the rise, and I hope fellow councillors respect my decision.
Thank you, Councillor Rowe. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak for or against? Councillor Sharkey?
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Taking on board some of the comments around the room, in particular Councillor Rowe's stance there. This is this has been brought to the table by particularly the new collective group of councillors, which is quite interesting in itself. 12 months ago, it's not something that we as a council group would have ever dared to do, go out to the public and ask for a 10% pay rise. So it is good to see that is coming from the new councillor group. who, and there's some really interesting comments tonight on particular budget and this item itself, where you are starting to see new councillors get a appreciation for some of the tough decisions and some of the things that we have to do, and this is not something that I would have personally brought forward to the table. Councillor Cunningham's comments starting off this debate probably resonate the most in terms of this is farcical, this is stupid. I don't know any other industries or anything where it's left to us as councillors to make this decision. Absolutely appalling. No ratepayer. I think Councillor Getsom said that residents will find it palatable. Most residents won't find a 1%, 2%, 10% increase palatable at all. But as Councillor Whitfield said, we have to look after the future of councillors. This sum has to grow. I agree with Councillor Cunningham. This should be left for an independent umpire. Let them make the decision, and going forward, that is what's going to happen. But every 4 years, we have to sit here and assess this and debate whether it should go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5%. I strongly disagree with Councillor Rowe's sentiment that it should be a flat 0, because every industry deserves a pay rise, in my opinion. You've got the minimum wage has just been increased in Australia, so it's fair to say that people do deserve a pay rise. The difficult challenge with this, and I've expressed to councillors my frustration on this item. We have put in 3 councillor-only meetings. We've put in 2 briefing days. We've swallowed up our allowance, probably discussing this on the phone with one another. Like these items, in a perfect world, should be left to the state government to decide and let us debate the real issues that Golden Plains residents vote us for, and that's roads and rubbish and the 70 services that we provide. Yeah, really frustrating that it's not the state government, but I think that is a fair outcome and quite palatable by the community at 1.5 to 5% increase, which is fair and understandable. So happy to support the motion put. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Sharkey. Okay. Councillor Cunningham, would you like to?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Not much else to add, but as I say, I believe the proposed recommendation seeks a minimal, fair and a balanced increase to the mayoral and councillors' allowance, as well as in the applicable tier banding. And as Councillor Sharkey said, there has been an incredible amount of time spent on this item, which in one way reflects the council group as a whole, really looking at all items that come before council and trying to make the best decisions. And I think as a group of councillors so far in our term, I think we're doing that. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. I'll now put it to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? Thank you. Carried. Item 7.12, awarding of tender RFT 07-2021.
Madam Mayor, I just have a conflict of interest on this.
Yes, thank you.
Can be excused, please.
You may. Okay, the awarding of tender RFT 07-2021, the Bannockburn Youth Hub. Thank you, Mr. Josipovic.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A portable previously used to accommodate council staff has recently been relocated and will be transformed into a vibrant youth hub facility that will provide inclusive, innovative and accessible programs and services for young people in our growing community. This project will support improved health, social, education and employability outcomes and provide stronger connections between the local community and services young people need. The tender to refurbish and upgrade the existing portable was advertised on the 8th of May 2021 and closed on the 9th of June 2021, with 4 submissions received on closing. The submissions were reviewed and compliance checked with no submissions identified as non-compliant. After the evaluation panel conducted an extensive and detailed assessment process individually, a consensus meeting was then held on the 18th of June 2021. The tender evaluation report has been previously provided to councillors. Bowden Corporation was chosen as a preferred contractor based on consensus measured by capacity, capability, price and local content. The tender is within the project budget of $561,752, which is made up of funding of $271,000 from the Department of Jobs, Precinct and Regions Growing Suburbs Fund, $100,000 from the Federal Local Roads and Community Infrastructure Fund and $100,000 from Bannockburn and District Grants Incorporated, as well as the in-kind contribution of the repurposed portable building at $90,000 or just over $90,000. The recommendation is that Council resolves to award the contract for the Bannockburn Youth Hub to Bowden Corporation for the sum of $393,189.60 exclusive of GST, and 2, delegates to the Chief Executive Officer or his delegate authority to execute the contract on behalf of Council.
Director, any questions, councillors? No questions? Okay. I'll ask, do we have a mover? Councillor Gamble. Do we have a seconder? Right up, Mr. Sharkey, thank you. Councillor Gamble, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you. I'd like to make particular note of the role Councillor Cunningham has in facilitating this great project through his roles with the Bannockburn and District Grants, hence he's not in the room with us now. But as part of our June briefing day, we were presented with the key findings from the Golden Plains Shire Youth Survey. The presentation was made by a young person who gave real weight to the importance and need of such projects as this youth hub. I myself have got 2 teenage boys, and I can see how such a service could really facilitate or help them in social connections, perhaps getting information and just linking up with their older friends that they somewhat get distance from because they all go to different schools in Geelong generally, or a lot of them do. These days we've got the Bannockburn Prep to 12 school, and we're coming along to 12, and so that makes it easier, but there's an older generation at the moment anyway that, and there probably still will be, a lot of kids go to different schools, so this is a way of getting them to have a common ground. Because from the presentation, aware of the special challenges to younger people living in our Shire, particularly with issues like loneliness and lack of social connections, and those special challenges also extend to their parents and families too, in terms of getting them to places to see, to drive them around, travel. These days it's not enough just to provide sporting facilities or a good internet connection. Not even enough for the sporty kids. The local government has a role and obligation to do things to look after the mental health of citizens, and this age bracket is where people are the most vulnerable and where people are the set up for adult life. So all we can do to help them at this age is really big and really good thing to do. One big issue that comes up particularly in this demographic is the lack of transport options. And one thing we didn't mention in the budget that's really good is the trial bus service coming up. But anyway, the connections between towns, friends, shops, Geelong, very important for kids, youth, and as a bricks and mortar youth hub such as this, it's necessarily best built in the most populated area, so it's going to be near the school in Bannockburn, and but connecting the satellite towns such as Teesdale, Inverleigh, Lethbridge and Meredith and Shelford with ways for kids to get around, such as off-road bike tracks, is a would be an extra and complementary thing to do. Also, likewise, Smilesdale in the north. But so that said, then I really do appreciate and support this project. I think it's creative, and it'll be interesting to see how it goes. And it's also good to see how it's been repurposed from excess council building. And all in all, I fully support it and commend it.
Thank you, Councillor Gamble. Councillor Sharkey, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I think Councillor Gamble has covered the purpose of the building, and this has been allowed into Council's budget and has been approved and advocated. And it is also worth noting there that the Bendigo Bank, through members of the community that get themselves involved with Bendigo Bank, the Bendigo Bank will then in turn use some of the funds that is resourced through accounts to contribute to something like this. So these are our favourite things that we like seeing come across our desk, where we've got a big outlay from the Growing Suburbs Fund, community support and councillors' input there of a relocated repurposed portable container. It is also worth noting we're awarding a tender. This is budgeted for, and in a perfect world, this shouldn't even be here tonight. We are lucky. It is worth noting that we're extremely lucky. We did move our meeting from last week to this week, and I'm going to have it a guess that this probably wouldn't have got in time, and therefore would have come to the next council meeting, and then in turn, because the CEO's delegation sits at 400,000, this sits at 393 plus GST. So this is only coming before us tonight because it goes over delegation, and if that had to come to our next meeting, it means that this project is delayed by a month, and all the good points that Councillor Gambler made with regards to youth is put off by a month. It is extremely important, especially when we start talking COVID recovery, that we get these projects up and running as quick as possible. So possible conversation into the future, but yeah, items like this one, it would be nice to see them just they have been approved by us in the past. It'd be nice to see CEO tick off on these behind the scenes and get boots to ground and get these jobs going. Seeing a lot of activity around at the moment in Bannockburn, and this is another one. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sharkey. Councillor Rowe.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to say it's great to see the old portable being developed into a vibrant youth hub facility. I hope it will be well accepted by the young people of the area. I think a special thank you on behalf of this council should go to local resident Doug Gadd for all his involvement in the implementation on this project. When I first got on council in 2016, he's very passionate in a facility like this for the youth of the local areas, and was present to see the turning of the sod for the construction of such recently.
Thank you, Councillor Rowe. Is there any councillor who would like to speak against the motion? Speak for the motion? If not, Councillor Gamble, would you like to sum up?
I think I've said all I need to say, but I'd just like to thank Councillor Rowe for his note then to acknowledge the contribution of people that really get behind and kick on these things, and also we should acknowledge the funding bodies that participated in it too. The both as the turning the sod function that we had the other day, where most of the councillors went to. Then we also had Sarah Henderson representing the federal money contribution. I think there was 100,000. We had Gail Tierney, who would provide the major contribution of money, and then there was the Bannockburn and District's connections, which Councillor Cunningham's involved in, and we should also mention that the all community can participate in giving money through that fundraising body by just going to the Bendigo Bank and asking the teller about it. Thank you.
Councillor Gamble. We need to keep supporting those communities. Okay, so we'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? Carried. Yep. We've awarded the contract. Thank you. Item 7.13, awarding the, of tender RFT. Oh, sorry. Yep. RFT 03-2021, the Bannockburn Soccer Female-Friendly Change Room. Thank you, Mr. Josipovic.
Madam Mayor, commercially registered builders are required to complete the construction of an architectural design extension to the existing soccer pavilion to incorporate female-friendly and unisex change rooms to service the recently constructed second soccer pitch and meeting the Football Federation of Victoria guidelines, including DDA compliant public toilets, referee room, change rooms for home and away, first aid room, storage space, baby change facilities and other associated supporting items such as paths and landscaping. The tender was advertised on the 17th of April of this year, closing on the 12th of May. 4 submissions were received and all submissions were compliant with our mandatory requirements. The evaluation panel reviewed and scored each tender, and then a consensus evaluation meeting was held on the 2nd of June of this year. The tender evaluation report has been previously provided to councillors. It's important to note that the tender included 3 options that tenderers were requested to provide a cost for. These were a new concrete pavement to extend to the future fence line of the second soccer pitch, a new landscape and concrete planter box, and also provision of external soffit lining to the underside of the new canopy. Bowden Corporation were chosen as the preferred supplier based on the consensus scores measured by capability, capacity, price and local content. 2 of the 3 tender options are also recommended to be included in the contracted works, being a new concrete pavement to extend to future soccer pitch 2 fence line and provision of the soffit lining to underside of the new canopy. Bowden Corporation have also provided an updated schedule that they are able to start on the 1st of July with completion forecast for the 28th of October 2021 being a funding requirement. The project is fully funded by state government grants from the Community Development Grant as well as Sport and Rec Victoria's Community Infrastructure Program. It is recommended that Council resolves to award the contract for the Bannockburn Soccer Female Friendly Change Room to Bowden Corporation for the sum of $878,398.62, exclusive of GST, comprising of $804,449 for the mandatory building component and $73,949 for 2 of the 3 tender options I mentioned earlier. And 2, delegates to the Chief Executive Officer or his delegate authority to execute the contract on behalf of Council.
Director. Any questions, councillors? No questions? If not, do I have a mover to the motion? Councillor Sharkey. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Cunningham. Councillor Sharkey, would you like to speak?
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Look, another great, exciting project that's going to go underway now. Again, sort of repeating my earlier comments on the last item. This is a budgeted item. It's gone through the process. It's something that we have in our priority projects. It's quite interesting, actually, just as the Director Josipovic was introducing that, I was thinking to myself at the moment and taking a sort of a bird's eye view of Bannockburn at the moment. We've got the roundabout, a $2 million project there. I see that the shopping centre is started there now. On top of that, you've got the youth hub and then this $1 million project here. So it's a considerable amount of work happening in Bannockburn at the moment, more work than's ever been seen. Been a little bit cynical. It's quite interesting. These all projects will start and complete, and having been part of these when they were announced at the last federal election, they're going to start now, and they probably will all finish around the same time, and we'll see all the federal elected members come back and stamp these approvals at the next election. So it's quite interesting to see how the timing of all these work. But this is a fantastic project, and the Bannockburn Soccer Club there, which have been going from strength to strength the last few years, will be truly excited by all these inclusions here. And yeah, we've been presented with the numbers before of the rapidly growing sport of soccer in Bannockburn. So again, quite interesting having a look for that bird's eye perspective of Bannockburn at the moment, but extremely proud to put this one forward, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sharkey. Councillor Cunningham, would you like to
Madam
speak?
Mayor, nothing else to add to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any councillors who'd like to speak against the motion? Any councillors who'd like to speak for the motion? Councillor Gamble.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to say that it's awesome that girls and women can taking up sport like soccer and Australian rules, and I think it's really important that we develop these facilities for the obvious need, and it's a flagship facility for at least this half of the Shire with a growing population. So it's not just the population, but it's the active participation rates in soccer especially. And one of the councillors mentioned before the figure, was it you, Mayor, about the that we have the most young kids in any Shire, and so we've got a growing range, growing demographic of people that have be right into using this. So I think it's a great facility, and it will be a great way to cater for those up and coming soccer players.
Thank you, Councillor Gamble. Councillor Rowe.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to comment and say it's good to see a second change rooms at the local soccer facilities in Bannockburn. As you all know, soccer is a growing sport within our Shire, and it was only a few years back that the first a pitch was developed, so it's not that long back. So, and this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rowe. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak against the motion, for the motion? If not, Councillor Sharkey, would you like to sum up?
No, thanks, Madam Mayor. I think there's enough good comments there tonight, so I look forward to seeing some soccer balls being kicked in future. Tim Cahill's coming from Bannockburn.
No worries. I'll put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 7.14, awarding of tender RFT 01-2021 Meredith Shelford Road widening, stage 3. Thank you, Director.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This report relates to award of contract for upgrade of approximately 2 kilometres of the Meredith Shelford Road. This is a continuation of the road upgrade that has seen approximately 4 kilometres of road upgrade works previously awarded in the last couple of years, I think 18 months. Public tender was advertised and responses assessed. This report seeks approval to award the contract to the preferred tenderer, Byrne Fleming Civil Proprietary Limited. Councillors have been provided with a copy of the confidential tender evaluation panel report previously. This contract includes all the civil works required to complete the scope of works as defined in the construction drawings and the schedule of quantities. The works generally include removal of the existing civil delineation throughout the drainage and drainage improvements with upgrades to driveway culverts and crossroad culverts. The tender was originally advertised on the 3rd of April, closing on the 28th of April, with 5 submissions received. All submissions were compliance checked and no submissions were identified as non-compliant. A consensus meeting of the evaluation panel was held on the 11th and then again on the 20th of May 2021. Byrne Fleming Civil Proprietary Limited were chosen as a preferred supplier based on consensus measured by capacity, capability, price and local contact, as well as reference checks. The project is fully funded from the Federal Government's Black Spot Roads Program and is within the allocated project budget. It is recommended that Council resolves to award the contract for the Meredith Shelford Road widening stage 3 to Byrne Fleming Civil Proprietary Limited for the sum of $785,357.12, exclusive of GST, and 2, delegates to the Chief Executive Officer or his delegate authority to execute the contract on behalf of Council.
Thank you. Any questions, councillors? Councillor Rowe?
Yeah, thanks very much, Phil. I just noticed there's a 7mm primer seal. Is that the only seal?
There'll be a 7 primer seal, and then I believe there'll be a seal after about 12 months, a final seal that comes on top after about 12 months. But I'll take that on notice and
Is
confirm.
that part of the 785?
No, that'll be part of our rear seal program, is what we normally do.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, that's the other question I want to ask. This is $1 million budget.
Mhm.
We're only using 785,000, so the balance of the money will be for the extra ceiling.
Well, that will go and be reported as a saving, but it is fully funded by the Black Spot program, so we'll probably look at some sort of variation to our funding agreement with the Black Spot program to see what else we might be able to do with it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, councillors? If not, do I have a mover to the recommendation? Councillor Rowe. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Cunningham. Councillor Rowe, would you like to speak?
I'd just like to say this is a very important piece of roadwork infrastructure within our Shire. As we all know, it's the stage 3 sections. There's already been 2 sections previously done. So this will be a 2-lane sealed road. It'll no doubt help a lot of the rural people, the farmers in the area, get produce in and out. Not only that, it'll also help. It'll also help with the chicken farms out the back of Lethbridge, because some of the produce comes in from the back way, not off the Midland Highway. So that'll help as well. So that was all. Thank you.
Councillor Rowe. Councillor Cunningham?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Nothing else to add there, thank you.
No worries. Is there any councillors who'd like to speak against the motion? Any councillors like to speak for? If not, Councillor Rowe, would you like to sum up?
Not really, thanks, Madam Mayor. Just that there was 5 tenderers to this project, which is good, and I think we've I think we've awarded the tender to the right person or the right people. Thank you.
Motion. All those in favour? Those against? Carried unanimously. Thank you. We have no notices of motion. We have no petitions, nil urgent business. However, we have confidential reports for decision. There are confidential items for consideration tonight. I now ask that members of the gallery to leave the meeting so the meeting can move into a closed session. Can I have a councillor to move and second the resolution to move into a closed session? Councillor Rowe, seconder, Councillor Cunningham. Sorry, I wasn't sure. Sorry.
No, it's okay, my mistake.
I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you.
We'll just turn off the live.